Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, how's tonight? Nice to see all of you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all those who are tuning in remotely tonight. Here's the agenda. That's helpful. Okay. Michelle.
Yes.
Do you have any agenda changes? Is anyone here wishing to address the board on agenda related public comment, something that we're acting on this evening? Going from good to great. Michelle, do we have any communications? Okay, then with that, we'll jump right into board and staff reports, and it's my pleasure to turn it over to my good friend Matthew Burdick with the Encompass Recreation presentation.
All right. Thank you. My name is Matt Burdick, Director of Student Empowerment and Success for the Watertown City School District. And I'm here tonight to present on behalf of Kylie Schell, who is the Encompass Recreation Director. She had to work on Tuesday nights and had asked me to just give a brief presentation regarding the program and an event that she would like to host through her program here in the district late in June. And with that, we're going to start with a short video clip that she has provided, an overview of the program, and then I can share a few additional details and answer any questions.
Good evening, Watertown Board of Education and staff. My name is Kylie Schell, and I am the founder and executive director of Encompass Recreation. Dr. Schmiegel asked that I attend the meeting tonight. Unfortunately, I do work a job at the community clinic providing therapy to neurodivergent kids on Tuesday evenings, so I'm not able to be there, but I appreciate being able to send you this video and talk a little bit about what we are asking of you. So for those of you that don't know, Encompass Recreation is a local nonprofit. We were founded in August of 2022 and started our programming in January of 2023. We offer sports and recreation and opportunities to youth with higher support needs. And we commit to be able to providing opportunities where differences are celebrated and strengths are accentuated, and everybody is welcome on our team. We want our kids to feel safe and encouraged and included and challenged. And we hope that anything you've heard of us would likely say the same. Real quick, I wanted to show you a little bit from our POM card. So we're a nonprofit, and we have 501c3 status. And when we talk about programming for youth with higher support needs, we say that intentionally. We don't say special needs or we don't say disabled because there's a lot of folks out there that don't identify like that, but also there's a whole lot of kids out there that don't yet have diagnoses. So any kids ages 2 through high school that don't feel comfortable or welcome or accommodated in traditional programming are welcome at our program. So just a little bit about what we've been able to accomplish. Again, we were incorporated in August of 2022 when we started our programming in January of 2023. Our first year of programming, we only planned 4 events. And as you can see, we had 65. And I think that that's a true testament to how needed our programming was across the region. So what you'll see is we offered 65 programs. We had over 1,400 youth participants, over 500 volunteers, and we just had some really amazing things going on. Last year, our 2024 year, we had over 175 different programs and over 1,800 youth participating in our programming. We spent a lot of time seeking out grants and donations because we offer every single bit of this completely free. We don't charge a dime. So we really look for businesses and organizations to waive their rental fees if possible so that we can have our programming be most accessible to kids like ours. Just to give a little bit of context, we intentionally move around our programming so that we don't geographically isolate any particular group. Most of our programming does happen in Jefferson and Lewis County, but we try to move things around. At our most recent board meeting, we had talked about how we had yet to have anything at Watertown, and a few of my board members and auxiliary board members are Watertown natives, and even some of them on your board. And we talked about how we wanted to be able to have an event at Watertown. So what you'll see on this image is that we have kids coming from 6 local surrounding counties and Canada. We have pretty consistent kids coming from all of those. And our rule is if you can get to us, you're welcome to come. It doesn't matter where you're from. If you can get to where the event is, you are welcome. So I had this idea about an exceptional triathlon on my radar for a while. We already do a swimming program, we already do a biking program, and we already do a running program. So it really makes sense that we loop in a triathlon. One of my auxiliary board members, her husband is your track and cross country coach. And then another one of my auxiliary board members is there tonight as a board member for you, Lori. And there's just a lot of great people in your district. And so I reached out and I talked to your athletic director, and we identified a date in June that we would really like to have this triathlon. When I filled out the request to use the facilities, it was over $1,200. And that was a bit of a sticker shock for me, mostly because a lot of the other districts that we use also use that same platform, and they waive the fees because we are a nonprofit, but also because we don't charge. And it's just really cost prohibitive for us to be able to have the program there at that cost. We certainly don't want you to absorb any costs that you might have. We've been asked to, reimburse for custodial staff or whatnot, and that's all within our realm, but certainly $1,200 is not. Our goal is to be able to do this run, bike, swim program starting out on the track, and then they can use anything with wheels, whether that be their wheelchair or a scooter or a bike, and go along the back parking lot and then end in the pool for a swim. So my hope is that you'll consider waiving the rental fees for that area on this particular date, or any date that we decide might be better for this program, so that we can offer that free to these kiddos, because they deserve the world and we're hopefully able to provide that. Please let me know if you have any questions and if I can answer anything about this program, or if we can come to some sort of agreement about using the facilities at a reduced, or even better yet, a free option. Thank you so much.
Summarize the program again. It's to provide sports and recreation opportunities for youth with higher support needs. The program really involves ensuring inclusive, supportive, and adaptive activities for all participants. The date would be Sunday, June 29th, starting at 10 o'clock. The draft format is to start on the track with the run, and then to transition to the bike, scoot, roll across the parking lot to the pool, and then end in the pool for a swim. As far as pool safety and supervision, I've been in communication with Lori Peters. Lori's also talked with Kylie about this, and Lori would be coordinating and supervising these 3 lifeguards, ensuring that safety of the students in the pool. There's also parents and helpers that would also be in the water as appropriate with the students. And Anthony Perry has also been involved as a cross-country coach to help with recruiting some volunteers from the cross-country team that can assist out on the track for this event. As Kylie stated, they are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. She does offer they're fully insured for events and activities. And the key benefits of this program is to encourage physical activity and confidence building amongst these students, creates a welcoming and adaptive environment for all abilities, and most importantly, really promotes community engagement and inclusion. I've been a part of 2 events with Kylie through my affiliation with South Jeff Little League. We hosted 2 events at the Rodman baseball field last year. They were very well organized and run. We had volunteers. It was just two great events that we were able to host out there, and hopefully we can bring this to our district and our community. Any questions for me at all?
A great presentation. Sounds like a great event, Matt. Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along on our board and staff reports, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Chad Fairchild and Mrs. Olivia Gallagher to give us the welcome and student voice here at Wiley.
Well, thank you all for being here, and good evening. Board of Education and my bosses. We are, which side are you? So we are excited to present to you because Wiley is the estuary of the district. All the streams flow into Wiley. From here, we get to have them 2 years and grow them up good and strong and send them out to sea somewhere. No, it's a case of school and over up to the high school. And part of what we do here at Wiley is it's been our focus for the last couple of years now, since we've been here anyways, to really plant the seed that our students are young cyclists, that they see themselves at the high school, they see themselves at Case Middle School being an athlete, being a great artist, being a great musician, being a great student there, and having a full career of it. So you will hear us tonight probably refer to them as young cyclones periodically. That's very purposeful because you're young cyclones and you're going to do amazing things for lots of years. And before we go on, a giant thank you to Dr. Schmiegel, to Lynn, to Tina, to Bree, and to each of the members of the board, because with your encouragement and support, we have created some new learning opportunities and different things that are part of our district mission, such as a gifted and talented enrichment program at Wiley, a National Elementary Honor Society, a newspaper club that you'll get to hear about tonight, a Watertown High School mentoring program where our bigger cyclones come and talk to our little cyclones. We did some of that last year also with we've been doing it this year, having different sports teams and different artists come up and talk to the whole assembly of the kids and what's it like to be a big cyclone that you have to look forward to. I'd also like to say a thank you, or we'd like to say a thank you to the many Wiley staff, members who give of their time, their energy, their love, their expertise to make these programs possible for our young cyclists. So thank you all. And lastly, I'm just going to throw just a quick thank you to Mrs. Wheeler, who put the presentation together, because that was a huge, wonderful thing that she did. Now, here we go. Up here, y'all can turn around and look at the light here. So the big picture of Wiley, we have over 600 students each year. At the beginning of the year was 608, 609 on Beds Day. As of a day or two ago was 596. So it just stays right around 600, pretty steady. Of those, we have 30. Do the 8 math with me here. That would be 33. Am I correct? 33 classrooms, 28 regular education classrooms, 4 special education classrooms, behavioral needs classroom. And at the end of the year, we tally up, we've done this for years. We continued with it. We have an academic ribbon award. So those are our students that have had 85 average or higher in all of their core classes for the entire school year. And we have 110. The 600 students, 110, that's a pretty good percentage of our students are rocking it academically. And so we are very proud of them. Now, staffing. So how many staff does it take to help that many students be successful? 118 to be precise, plus some extra other services. We have the North Country Family Health Clinic here at Wiley, plus their dental clinic. We have Pivot, we have Liberty, we have 4-H, and we have SAC before and after school too. All here in this building. A lot going on here, plus a lot of PD that happens here. So that's the big picture. Opportunities at Wiley: ensemble, band, National Elementary Honor Society, First Lego Leagues, yearbook club, student council, 4-H, Liberty, gifted and talented program, theme fair. You'll see a lot of STEAM stuff tonight, and a newspaper club, which is new and exciting. Now, you will find that there are 56 pictures. And we are not going to talk about each of them. We will talk about a dozen of them. That would be a baker's dozen for sure. But we would like to, we said, no, we are going to put up all 56 of them to overwhelm you in a good sort of way, because there's so many amazing things that happen here. And you just wouldn't know if we didn't show you some of that, but we won't talk about all of it. So in this one here, I'd like to draw your attention to, no, I don't want to draw your attention to anything. Mrs. Gallagher's going to.
I'll just talk about pictures 1 and 3 to start with. This is highlighting our mentorship program that we have going on with the high school. So we have invited high school students to come to Wiley, and really they can go into a classroom, help students out with maybe some homework, maybe some math facts, or even help out in the cafeteria if they're feeling really ambitious that day. But it's really nice to have high school students come here to Wiley and really set a good example for our students of what they could be as a cyclone in the future. Picture 2 just highlights our spelling bee. We have picture 4, which is our Rev Theater. Students are creating their own script. Picture 5, as you can tell with their jerseys on. This was actually a STEM activity that tied in with the Super Bowl this year. So we thought that was fun to highlight as well.
We'll be done for you.
Thank you. We have some STEM activity that we thought we should include. 6, 8, 9 are just showing some more of that Super Bowl theme with they created an engineering design, as you can see in the picture. So we highlighted that. Picture 7 is our choral ensemble performance. For the holiday concert, a lot of students might not have been able to make that in the evening. So Lori Fons actually allowed us during the day to come down in groups, and we could view the ensemble and their performance. So it was nice as a community in the building, everyone to be able to go down to see that.
And it was amazing if you didn't get to see it, so.
Picture 11 is Miss Gosier, a teacher in our middle school who came up and actually shared a Spanish lesson with Wiley students. 12 is some more STEM activities. 13 and 14, we like to have a little fun at Wiley with our sledding, and we have a pretty good hill for it. You probably have drove by once or twice and saw kids out there sledding. So that's 13, 14. 15 is also with our Rev Theater, and 16 showing us how to use costumes for Rev Theater, practicing with that.
And 16, Festival of the Trees, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, some of our kids.
Festival of the Tree.
Next, I get to share a little bit on the slide here. In number 18, you'll notice our students, and they're in some place that does not look much like Wiley. That's up at Starbase on Fort Drum. All of our 5th graders go up to Fort Drum for different STEM activities. Number 19, I really wanted to share with you 19, something that we started this year. The bosses gave us permission, said, Chad, you guys can set aside some money to do this next year. So what we did, we pitched the idea like on Shark Tank, and they said, yes, do it. And so you'll see down here that I'm sorry, we didn't actually bring one. I should have. It says Wiley Math Challenge on it. Now that's the back side of the shirt. And on the front had just our regular new Cyclone logo. And every student in our building, from starting in January, they have to memorize their math multiplication facts, 1 times 1 up to 12 times 12, and know them cold, automaticity, just know it fast. And if they can remember that and have it down really fast, and they can do it every week, they get a chance in their classroom to take a little 50 questions. And if they can do it in 90 seconds, they get a check in the book that they got it once. Any other time in the year after that, as long as it's a week later, they do it again, they win a t-shirt. They get to pick the size, tell them it's an adult medium or a youth size 18. But we set aside enough money to buy every kid in the t-shirt. And so every week we're just encouraging them, hey, learn those math facts, boys and girls. And we are up to about 75 kids already that we've ordered t-shirts for and given out some of them. So that's pretty awesome. But you should know about that because it's just good, fun stuff. Fun learning. If you're wondering where the middle picture is, that's out of Fort Drum again. I think you recognize the hill just fine. Some more science, STEM projects there. Picture number 27. You might recognize those as some teachers and you might not. We do have some fun here at Wiley. Those are our teachers dressing up as the emotions of Inside Out. We also had one of our teachers, Mr. Tommy Brett, dressed up as an amazing Gru. They looked like Gru, and he had his minions. His kids dressed up as minions. Very fun. You'll notice in picture 28 and 30 that those are some of our gifted and talented program students who are doing some of their projects, some of the coding at the bottom, one of the projects at the top. And then 31, we really want to point this one out. Yes, it's part of my baker's dozen. Our students there every year, right before the Christmas, New Year's and all those holidays that happen around that time of the year, we have a family style ziti dinner in each of the classrooms. So we buy ziti for all the students and staff and special ziti. And we have the fix-ins and we have a day and they just have their classroom holiday luncheon together. So it's pretty fantastic things that we do there. I think I have one more slide before I hand it back over to Mrs. Gallagher. You'll see, there's our Gru there and many minions, but they're doing a different science project there. Down below, you'll notice slides number 34, 35, 36. That's looking to me like one of our wing pancake breakfasts. We have the regular breakfast downstairs, and then they get a breakfast number 2, homemade pancakes and their wings with their classmates. And it's a lot of fun. So we do that once or twice a year, depending on the wing and how ambitious, hungry the students are. So, Mrs. Gallagher.
So our next slide is highlighting a little bit 38 and 41, Sophia the cow. We do not have a cow at Wiley, but we do adopt the cow. One of our classrooms connects with a local farm to learn about agriculture, where our food comes from. They do a personalized Zoom video with the teacher and the students to really learn about food and agriculture. Then also the same classroom actually is growing microgreens. They grow them, they eat them. Again, learning about where our food comes from and nutrition for our body. 46 is highlighting some CPR training that our phys ed department offered for students, where they can learn how to give someone CPR if they were ever in an emergency situation.
The Red Cross comes in and does it with our staff. It's great.
And then we want to highlight some Oreos. One of our classes does an Oreo for math, where students get to try lots of different Oreos and figure out statistically what they predict they like versus what they actually like, compare it with their classmates. I didn't know when that one was going on, or else I probably would have stopped down.
I got it. It was a taste. I made a very good lesson.
Lastly, we really want to highlight our National Elementary Honor Society. We had 65 students get inducted recently. This is the first year where we have started a National Elementary Honor Society. Ashley Stevens, Stephanie Eldridge have really done a lot of work to get this going. And just if you had the opportunity to attend this ceremony, it was really nice seeing how students were recognized and just how excited they were for being recognized for this accomplishment.
And that is not all, but that is all the pictures that we're going to show you tonight, because that is just a taste. There are so many things going on here at Wiley. We figured you should have a flavor, just a flavor, a sampling platter of what we do here at Wiley. So that's a little sampling platter. Next up, I'm very excited. We're going to introduce a newspaper club to you. And yes, you can clap. But I'm going to introduce them in just a moment here. But I got a letter. This is my handwritten copy of the letter, because the actual letter was from a student, and he's amazing. He started the project himself, but his penmanship makes me work really hard. Or did in the fall. So this is from Blake DeLine. Fine young man right here. He'll be way cool. He says, "Dear Mr. Fairchild, I would like a meeting with you about a newspaper club. I can get a staff advisor and students to help. It would be like yearbook, and I was in yearbook too. I think this would be like CNN 10. There's a student news program that many of our students watch. I would like a meeting in your office." Why? I think we should have a newspaper club because it is a teamwork group and it would be a job skill too. I could not say no. So of course we had a meeting, And from there, I will introduce Blake and I will introduce also Mrs. Hinckley over here on this side here. And these two are gonna take it over from here.
Well, I am Jean Hinckley. I'm the library media specialist at Wiley School. And Blake came to me and asked if I would be the faculty advisor for a newspaper club. And we decided we'd give it a try, right? Yes. So I would like to introduce all the members of my little press that are here this evening, all right? So we have Damian and Addie and Gabby and Holland, and we have Brooklyn and Levan and Blake and Joseph. There are many more. It's just a sample of some of our members. So tonight, what we're going to do, because we've been learning about asking questions and getting responses, right? is I'm going to start with a question. And you already have a little preview as to the answer, right? And then Blake is going to continue on by asking his peers questions that they are going to respond to. So Blake, why did you want to start a newspaper at Wiley?
I wanted to start a newspaper at Wiley because I thought it would be a good teamwork skill and a learning experience for the ones in newspaper. I also wanted to start a newspaper to keep kids up to date with the school news.
Wonderful. All right, so Blake, you continue with your questions and everybody prepare to answer.
How did you apply to be included in the newspaper?
To apply to newspaper club, I had to do a survey on Google Classroom, which had many questions, but one of the questions I remember most is, why do you want to be a newspaper? And then Miss Hinckley and Blake picked all of the participants based on schedules and whether or not they completed the provisions. All of the Wiley students did have a chance to apply.
Like Joseph, where does newspaper club meet and where?
We meet at the library classroom, most days unless told otherwise.
Leanne, what have you learned about working on a group project like a newspaper?
I have learned that you have to be good with working with other people, that you have to be a hard worker, be socially intelligent, you have to have good timing.
Brooklyn, what is your favorite part of creating an issue of a newspaper?
My favorite part is that I get to make all sorts of different things, and I get to use a cool thing called cameras, so I get to make backgrounds and posters, and sometimes I get to write on it too.
Damien, what have you learned about interviewing people for the newspaper?
It's scary and fun. It is scary because it's weird to ask questions like that.
Addie, what is one thing that you have learned by being a member of the newspaper club?
I have learned that I should take my time and do my work the right way the first time, and it always should be kind.
Holland, what has surprised you about working on a group project like a newspaper?
How much work you have to put into it by working together a lot and by listening to each other. For creating the newspaper, I have learned a lot about working together.
We have about 19 kids that are participating. And nobody, of course, was denied. It's all about what fits into their schedule. We do meet during sixth grade lunch and fifth grade learning lab. So they bring their lunch with them, and that's my lunch break too. So oftentimes we munch out and get our work done. So we're working on issue 2 right now. Deadline's getting a little close. I am going to ask Blake to hand out a copy of the paper on this side. And Joseph, would you hand out a copy of the paper to everybody around this horseshoe? No, over here, honey, to the table, okay? Nice job. learning how to use a lot of tools, how to work collaboratively on Google Slides is our chosen platform. And they're doing a great job. What questions do you have for us?
Well, I think this is phenomenal and, Blake, fortune favors the bold. And you had an idea and look what came of it, I think you're an inspiration to all your friends at school. And to everybody who's involved in this, it's great to be involved and very proud of that. We actually have some certificates that we're gonna give out, and I'm gonna call you up one by one. Now let's start with Mr. Blake. Come on up.
You're welcome, parents, to take a picture. Don't be shy.
Come on.
There we go.
Can I just say something about Blake? I have to tell you a little story about Blake.
There we go. Okay.
Blake was a North student. And when he was in first grade?
Yeah.
First grade, he used to wear his little suit jacket to school. And I knew then and there, and talking to Blake, that he was gonna go places. He is a very determined, very creative dude. And I am so proud of you. Good job.
Hey, Damien. Let's see who guys can find out there. Right here. Right over here.
Everybody, sorry.
Thank you very much. Up next is Addie.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Gabby. Joseph.
Our next issue.
Joseph, I gotta tell you, of all the certificates we've ever given out, that is the best. The man. If my math is correct, I got everybody in the newspaper club, is that right?
Everybody that's here.
That's here.
in the newspaper club.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Joseph, what is it that you want to write in your next article? What do you want to research about?
Do you mean issue 2 or?
Yes. Issue 2.
I'm currently writing about Napster, like a music service that allowed people for digital piracy, but then it got shut down by the RIAA, the Recording Industry Association of America, and then it got turned
it got bought out in a bankruptcy auction by Roxio and Mercic with ExpressPlay.com. And another service like it that failed and became Napster 2.0. It was bought out by Best Buy, then most of it was acquired by Rhapsody, another music service, and it turned its entire asset into Rhapsody. But then it turned entirely into Napster, and then Napster got acquired by Mint Songs in 2023. Oh, you can get a 30-day free trial. Although it no longer has its features that it used to have when you all were kids.
Yeah.
It's 909.
Thank you, Joseph.
Distinctly, I just want to thank you for giving up of your time during the day to meet with these kind students. And I want to thank you. You're an inspiration. People, when they have ideas, they bring them forward and they come to fruition. So you're making a difference in the lives of all of the peers at Wiley and peers to come. So congratulations to you. It's this thing where they interviewed me on Friday, so if the article does not come out right. Maybe, no.
Thank you.
Perfect, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
You.
Thank you.
And that's in.
So, yes, thank you very much. I would like to say on behalf of all of us at Wiley, Gallagher and everybody else, thank you so much for all of your amazing support for our students. We have an amazing group of young cyclones here at Wiley that are gonna set the world on fire in different ways. If you're ever curious about Linux, ask Joseph. Don't start now, Joseph. Next time you can ask him.
It's on.
Linux. He's fun.
Plus kernels are gender based and they're 64-bit.
That's true.
Sorry, no, beta.
So this is the guy you talked on, the guy that you need to talk to about how to start your own business, this guy right here. The guy that you need to talk to about how to keep this guy in line or all these ones over here. And all of the other ones keep me in line. And so there we go. But that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. And Michelle, is this the time when all the Wiley peeps can head out if they have to take their kid for dinner?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, before you go, and I'll let anybody who wants to talk about it. I've been on the board for quite a long time. And there's a lot of special kids that go here, but there's a lot of special staff members that work in Wiley. And there was a time where I'm not sure it was as fun as it currently is. And I would really commend, Chad and Olivia for bringing that back to Wiley, and it's noted on this end of the table. And I'm proud of everybody in this room, and especially the school nurse. I hear she's great.
I valiantly thank you all for coming here at this moment.
Thank you, Joseph.
My job is huge, obviously. So Mr. Fairchild was right. This is the time where anybody who was here for the Wiley presentation is welcome to leave the rest of our meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Hi, Dave. Love you.
I know it.
He's an ice.
Okay, nothing to follow. But moving along on our board and staff reports, and I'm going to actually allow Jeff Wood to introduce our next speaker.
We can connect. On the phone, if he doesn't have, he's kind of video challenged, is Chris Flood. And Chris is an engineer with Wells Communication, and they're the ones that prepared the Motorola proposals that you have in front of you as far as upgrading our radio system here at the district. So I'll turn it over to Chris. And obviously, if there's any questions or whatever, I can help facilitate them as well. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. Again, my name is Chris Flood. I'm with Wells Communications in Barracom. Been with them for about 21 years and do a lot of these school systems. Same thing for healthcare and the hospitality and manufacturing space. So very familiar with these systems, and they're very reliable. I'll kind of go over just a brief overview. If there's any questions, please stop me, or I can leave time at the end for anybody that wants to ask any. What it is that we're looking at is it's an 8 repeater system that's going to be at 6 of the separate school locations, with 2 being at the Case Middle, Wiley, and High School, being that they're in a cluster together. So those 2 repeaters will service all the talk groups for those 3 schools. This is a linked capacity plus system, one of Motorola's fancy terms for their digital. What that gives you is a lot of things over an analog system. One is it's linked, almost think of it as like a linked printers, that anytime somebody keys up a radio, they can roam at all of these different sites. So if, for example, you have a building and grounds department, which I'm guessing you do, and they're at one of the other, any of those schools within the huge, consider a blob of coverage, they can key up and talk on their talk group at any of the sites. So the repeater at the site they're in will essentially allow them to roam like a cell phone. I tell people when they're going down the road and they've been on the road for 5-6 miles, they've probably bounced off of 3 or 4 cell phone sites because it keeps soft handoff to one site to the next. This type of digital radio system does the same thing. The nice thing about that is if you have somebody in building and grounds and you're trying to find them and you're at one of the schools, if you go to their talk group and key up, it doesn't care what other school they're at. It's going to key up all the repeaters, and that person that's in building and grounds is going to hear the transmission. At the same time, for a system like this too, it allows every single school to get their own specific talk groups. As I realize in a lot of school districts, high school doesn't care what the elementary school is doing, or or some of the other schools. So each school will get its own talk groups, just like its own little city. There can be additional safety talk groups for keying up, and one that's popular in a lot of school districts that we program in is a site-wide all-call. This is an emergency feature that when you key up the radio, if either you have the permission to do it or everybody has the permission to do it on their radio, it will knock all transmissions off of all talk groups on the entire radio system to force through emergency announcements. This is an immensely helpful feature that a lot of schools take advantage of for obviously lockouts or any kind of evacuations or things like that, that you do not have to essentially go to every channel for every school and say, hey, there's a fire, get out. You can just literally do a site-wide all call and it will force interrupt over everything, these emergency announcements. And it's a programming thing on who you want the ability to do that or not. With this system, it included some extra components that we had talked about in a meeting. And a couple of them were a Motorola Ion device that you have some brochures there kind of giving you a visual. That's a ruggedized Android phone or an Android handheld that has LTE or a SIM card that can connect to Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile. And it's a two-way radio built into it as well. It's essentially a convergence device. And I guess there was a need for some of the third-party apps that maybe you're running now that can run on an Android device. That's where this device allows you to do multiple things on it and not have to carry a radio and maybe some scanners or things like that. That I had heard that back then it was a while that there was some kind of scanning app or something that you were going to be utilizing or already utilizing. Next were some other radios for management, which were labeled as R7s. Those are just a little bit more enhanced screen and keypad and give a little bit more administrative control over the radio system with the ability to do private calls from one-to-one person on a digital system. So that's one of the other advantages with a digital two-way radio system. Another thing with digital compared to analog is noise canceling superior. So loud auditoriums, lunchrooms, things, sporting events that are going on. If you have somebody standing within those events and they talk to you from there and you're sitting in a quiet room, you're not going to hear everything that's around them coming through the radio system. So if it's something that schools have always reported back is how much quieter the radio system gets. Also, you have the ability is encryption, so you remain off the scanners. We have a lot of news in the area that, as they say, if it bleeds, it leads in the news industry. That if they can hear it on a scanner and with any analog system in the current state of your radio system now, if something's said and they're driving by with their scanners to pick things up, it can then be repeated. This can be encrypted, so you do not have to worry about that unless somebody had like a $10,000 or $12,000 scanner, which isn't the norm with the news industry. With some of the other devices and things that were a part of the system were the XBR 3500 handsets. That's the basic talk handset with a simple screen, just letting the end user know what talk group that they're on and the caller ID of the person that's talking. And what's a nice feature too, that you always know who's talking on the radio system. So anytime there's a big radio system, there can always sometimes be jokesters, people doing bodily noises into the radio system, blowing into the mic, or saying things that they shouldn't, or even keying up and holding it to an FM radio. Anybody who's got a large radio system has probably encountered one of these things before. Well, when you have caller ID on the radios, everybody has a number, so nobody is anonymous anymore. So it stops that literally on day one. Next, there is a control station that's going to be servicing some third-party applications. Motorola Moto Turbo systems are capable of applications. If you want to think of it as an iPhone, there's an app for that. And some popular applications that we had talked about in a meeting many months ago were connecting it to your PBX phone system. And for two things, that you could actually have an extension on anybody's phone system that could talk to the radio system when needed. So they would just pick up their handset on their desk, hit an extension number, and then they can talk out to the radio system. Somebody would talk back, they could listen and then hang up, or just find somebody if they're not a person that normally carries a two-way radio or they want to say some kind of an announcement. The other part with that, connecting it to your phone system, is that we can program in a button that can call 911, and because it will originate from your phone's PBX, the 911 operator will know based on your location and your phone system that it derives at the school or which school, so that it will tell them where you're calling from. But you can also have an open conversation with somebody with 911 as an emergency button programmed into the radios. And it looks like the rest of that was on the quote were some mobile radios going in building and grounds vehicles, about 15 of those. And I think that's about it as far as what's included with the radio system. We've done these for probably, this is not you're not a beta tester. These have been in place for probably about 14 years. I've been selling these types of systems, and some of them have been in some local school districts around me that have multiple sites. We have a Schenectady County City School District that has 18 of these sites, and they work flawlessly, and they're very ruggedized. The repeaters, essentially, unless it took a lightning hit, they just keep going. And general lifespan for something like this would be about 5 years is the factory warranty on portables and repeaters, but the actual lifespan of repeaters, because they're in a protected room and just kind of doing their job, is usually 8 to 10 years at least. And we do get a lot of customers that go longer than that. Portable radios, obviously, those are item that's dropped or abused or thrown around or gets wet, but these all come with a 5-year warranty. And outside of that, usually we're seeing similar portables in those models lasting 7 to 8 years. And keep in mind, there's usually a battery change every 3 to 4 years, changing out the battery just because it expires. Other than that, I don't have anything else unless anybody has any questions. And sorry, I threw a lot at you right there, but please ask away if there's any questions.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Can you just go over that 6 location only? What did you say about 6 locations?
So it'd be six separate locations for the repeaters with, so 6 separate school locations, and the district locations will have 2. So there'll be 8 repeaters total, 6 at remote locations and 2 that will be servicing Case Middle, Wiley, and high school, and district offices that are kind of in a cluster from what I'd seen on a map in the past, all around each other. So they didn't need their individual repeaters. They would need 2 because 2 repeaters can handle multiple talk groups across all of those offices and schools. So there wasn't a need to have 1 repeater at every one of those because they were so close to each other. So 2 repeaters at one of those building locations will service all of those schools and locations. That was Case Middle, Wiley High School, and district offices.
So when you're establishing the talk groups, does that mean
Yes.
that talk groups can be heard in all of the locations?
If you want them to. If you don't want them to, that's a programming discussion further along of normally with school districts, we would give each school, whether it's the high school, middle school, elementary school, their own specific talk groups so they can hear and talk to each other. But some admins or some positions like building and grounds might want everybody in every school so that when they show up at the school, they can turn to the talk groups of the school that they're at. That's really a programming discussion. So we can put as little or as much as you want in every radio. And you can talk across if you want to, but that's, again, usually a discussion in programming.
So is that, are there additional fees attached to those additional programs?
No. That would be a programming meeting, like upon receiving a purchase order to move forward with the project. Usually we'll get the project or the order placed, get the equipment kind of going, start the FCC licensing, and being you're very close to line A, as they call it, within 100 miles of the Canadian border, takes a little bit longer to get frequencies because we have to approve it with Canada's FCC along with the United States FCC. So they both have to, because they're so close, you would transmit into Canada and vice versa. So once that then happens, I would usually schedule a programming meeting where I would come out and we'd whiteboard it and kind of chart it all out. And I would bring examples and visuals that I've done at other schools, that we're not reinventing the wheel. It's really a meeting to decide IDs and some functionality and some admin controls and whose radio you want them on. We've done these so many times, I can kind of give you examples. You don't have to come up with anything. I can put up on a whiteboard and we can kind of hammer it all out. But no, there is no extra charge for any of that. That's included.
It's the batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a charge do we have to purchase new batteries, or the batteries that we have are rechargeable?
You mean the batteries that are for the new radios on the quote?
Yeah.
Those batteries so all the radios on the quote, regardless of the model, are going to come with their own individual batteries. Batteries will come with a 1-year warranty from the manufacturer. And generally, we usually see it's about 3.5 into 4 years is pushing it, where then it's usually time. And I tell people, hey, when you're buying a big system and you're buying a bunch of brand new radios, put in the budget to start phasing them in 3-4 years to get half to replace them. The batteries will go bad whether they're being used or not. I tell people it's like milk. It expires whether you drink it or not. But generally, they'll last 3 to 4 years easily. And then they'll just go into half power mode. And that usually allows the radio. It doesn't give as good a coverage after 4 or 5 years because the radio isn't operating at full power.
So in your
But
quote,
mm-hmm.
You answered my question. So in your quote, there's $2,800 recurring annual fee for maintenance. So
Yes.
how much are we tapping into that? Do these radios require maintenance? Is that, I mean, I think that's a lot of money for maintenance. So are you finding that, you know, people are calling you to look at these radios throughout the year?
No. So that maintenance was for the repeaters, the fixed infrastructure, the expensive piece that those repeaters are about 10 grand a piece. And that is for the repeaters, the fixed infrastructure, those 8 repeaters on the quote. Nothing. Usually people don't do maintenance contracts on portable radios. It's just not cost effective and it will make that number go up a lot higher. It's an optional maintenance contract. It's not needed, or Bearcom calls it an SLA, service level agreement. What that maintenance contract covers, the repeaters, just like the portable radios, are going to come with a 5-year warranty. And within the first 6 months, anything happens, we're going to come take care of it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no question. But after, say, in a year or two, you have a problem, something happens with the repeater and requires a service call. Somebody comes over and looks at it, determines maybe, okay, the repeater might not be working or there might be an issue. Rare, but it happens. Then we go to take it out of service and then ship it back to Motorola. So what that maintenance contract covers is the shipping cost to go back to Motorola and the technician's time to come, diagnose, and then come back and reinstall. If you choose not to do it, which you can, and some people do, then you would just be then it would just be a charge of the shipping to go back to Motorola and the diagnostic trip from the tech and the trip to come back to reinstall it. Everything at Motorola's factory to repair it or replace it is covered, and you're covered for that 5 years. So that's all the maintenance contract is really meant to cover, is those diagnostic trips, shipping costs, and that would be it. And that's just for the repeaters. I didn't even put it on there for any other radios because it's just not cost effective for the portable radios and the mobile radios. The repeaters are the big ticket items.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I guess, how many schools have you put these in, sir?
Oh God, I put on that one of the sheets, the Word documents, but at least 15, maybe even more. It feels like we just got done with North Colony School District, which was 8 sites. Schenectady City was last year. We also have this in Albany Medical Center that's been going. They're on their 2nd batch, and they've been using it for about 15 years, and they have 2 sites. A bunch of different manufacturing facilities. They're all over. But I did have it listed, and I can send it again, of all the districts that are currently using the exact same systems.
No, that's fine. The other question that I have is, how long until these become outdated technology? You know, I mean, everyone.
Yeah, it's a valid question because right, there's always a new iPhone or new Android device or new tech. Generally, in the two-way radio space, as I've seen in the 20 years, Motorola, you know, they usually keep, and just like these radios are all capable of backwards compatibility with older analog systems, Motorola always builds in like the backwards compatibility because the radio industry doesn't go the leaps and bounds like a internet device, like an iPhone or an Android device or something like that, or even a home computer, where it just goes with those leaps and bounds. So the XPR 3500 has been in their line for about 4 or 5 years, and the new version is on its way out right now, the R5. It's within $50 in cost of the same radio, and I can update the quote to put that on there, but they still are offering the XPR 3500 portables. And even after they discontinue it later this year in May or June, where you can't buy them anymore, Motorola will still support them for repair for up to 5 to 7 years after. And that's because a lot of Motorola's customers are police departments, fire departments, ambulance companies, healthcare, hospitals, emergency rooms, public safety. So as far as making them outdated, no. And that Capacity Plus system is second gen digital, and they're still supporting that. The radios support old analog operation and even old conventional digital, which is considered Gen 1. Usually with newer type systems, they'll release a new radio and then say, hey, we have a firmware update if you want to add this new type of system architecture. But for systems like this, no, that's not been the case for the 20 years I've been with Wells and Bearcom and sold Motorola products.
So it's fair to say that it would be a purchase that would last for at least, by your calculation, 20 years?
No, well, hey, I'd wish everything would last 20 years, but I would probably say 10 years is what the average that we're seeing now with the recent refresh we did at Albany Medical Center, big trauma hospital here, and a few other manufacturing plants that use similar technology, where they're essentially keeping the exact same system architecture. They're just upgrading the handsets. Usually within 5 to 7 years, you might start to replace portable radios that they're just getting beat up, lost, stolen for whatever reason. But even whatever new models come out, they'll always be backwards compatible to work with this current system. And that's been the case with a couple new models.
Where's the price on those portable radios on this quote here? There's a lot of numbers here, so which one is it?
Quantity 100.
Quantity 100?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Quantity 100, that's the XPR 3500. That's the simple voice, consider it the voice only with a small screen on it. That was the Worker B radio. And then the R7s, which is a quantity of 30, that was more of the managerial enhanced screen with more keypad, more controls for admin features on the radio.
No, that's not it. Nothing there.
There's 745.
There's 745. Is it this right here?
Yeah, I think it was 749. Yeah, 749.50. Yep.
So 100 of them is $74,000. In your installation quote here, you're saying that it's going to take 172 hours at prevailing wages at 175. So I'm thinking you're estimating that it's going to take you about a little bit over 3 weeks to install this system based on 4 work weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's usually, yes. As far as from everything beginning to end, return trips, tweaks, programming meetings, FCC licensing, everything involved, yes. But as far as the actual, at every school, putting up everything, installing all mobile radios, working with the IT department for internet connectivity, these repeaters do not need to be on your main network. And so you do not have to worry about any kind of security breaches or things like that. They can be on a VLAN and outside network that's really just like networking printers together. They do not do their own firmware updates, and they do not need to go out to the internet for anything. They just need to see each other on your network.
Thank you.
Sure. Question, probably more for admin folks, but can you give the board a sense of the types of things that you would see this being used for?
Thank you, because I was looking at Jeff to kind of walk us through that. So we had the opportunity to kind of talk with our administrators about what the needs are in their buildings, but we also had the opportunity to bring this to the safety committee. So Jeff, if you can just share, like our current system now has some limitations, a lot of limitations.
Yeah, all the radios that we have now are there's no repeaters like he's mentioning for each building. So they just work within that building. They only can communicate with other radios in that building and that's it.
I want to do a district-wide lockdown. We don't have the ability to do that now.
Not from a radio system.
Text message or call everybody individually.
But we
This, I
do-
could do a one button and
Right.
lock the whole district down.
We do have the ability to do that right now, though.
Not-
I mean, we
not
do
with
have
the system.
lockdowns, though. that
Oh, we do, but they're
can't-
individually at the building.
I just want to make that clear. We do.
We do have a lockdown, but it's per building.
Right.
Yes.
This gives it district capacity.
What this really does is it kind of marries radio systems with all the other systems that we have for safety. So it interacts with our lockdown system. You can be programmed to do that. They can get alerts and texting and emails in the system. They can, as you mentioned, you can have one-to-one communication, which we don't have now. So if you want to have a private conversation with a principal about a student, anyone else right now, if you did that on the radio, would hear that conversation. You'd have to say, can I call you privately, and then go offline. With this radio system, you can make it one-on-one and you could keep it secure. It's secure as well. So as Chris is mentioning, where it doesn't, like right now, scanners can pick up our radios and they could hear our conversations going on. If you have the right frequency tuned in, it's much harder to do it with this system. You have to have a higher end scanner to accommodate that. So, you could lock down the entire district from one radio if that's what you want to program it to be. And you can also communicate if I want to pick up the phone and if I don't have a radio, like I may not carry a radio, but I know Chad has a radio and at Wiley, I could pick up the phone, have an extension and dial Chad's radio. Doesn't matter. Chad doesn't have to be at his desk anymore. He can be anywhere. So the mobility functionality is quite a bit higher. So you don't have to worry about where people are sitting and what they're doing. And they can literally be anywhere in the district. If Chad happens to be at a meeting over at Massey Street, I can still call his radio over at Massey Street and not worry about where he is. So it gives us a lot more expanding as far as where our communication is. And when you don't have to guess where somebody is, it just happens. So it gives us a lot more flexibility is the word I'm looking for as to what we can do. So
One of the things I was thinking about, Jeff, when we went through the demo phase, it's like we use Raptor, but right now when you go to a building, you have to log in at a computer. That computer to carry it out to a football game or a baseball game or basketball game is not that friendly. These devices at the higher end, the fewer that we ordered, those would have the ability to scan someone's license, to do that background check and to give them permission to be on that campus. They also have the ability to tie into the PA system, which right now you're going to the phone and having to make a hold in place, stay in place, et cetera. But it gives more flexibility for emergency situations that we don't have now.
And like you said, the 911 call can go right from the radio and they know where you are. So it just gives us a lot more capability that we don't have now. So we do have all those things now, but they're building by building by building. So each building has its own system in place and they can manage it that way. But if we had to do something district wide, which we've done in the sense that we had to do a shelter in place not too long a while ago, but someone had to call every building and make sure that they understood we're in a shelter in place. That takes time. Time is, a factor when you have a crisis going on. Not that I'm trying to sell this, but yeah.
No, all excellent points. And your current radio system now is analog, and as I'm understanding, it was just what they call simplex, just radio to radio, a bunch of radios sitting at a school. This is linked repeaters. If you don't know what a repeater is, I get it. I work in this industry. You don't. Just think of it as a mini cell tower, and all of them are linked together. So that gives you a huge swath of coverage over all the schools, but allows that linking to have all these extra benefits too, and especially for lockdowns and what we call a site-wide all-call. I mean, it's very powerful to be able to just pick up any radio, hit the push-to-talk button for a site-wide all-call, and now whatever you say is forced through every radio on your campus that's on. It doesn't matter if somebody's already talking on a different talk group, it forces through that emergency announcement. So that's a very powerful tool, especially when something's going on versus calling or texting or obviously picking up a phone.
My question would be for you. How many radios is this for? 100 and
It's roughly 100 of the lower end radios, and then there was a handful, like administrators that had the higher end ones that give them the capability of doing lockdowns and having that extra functionality. There's a handful of those, and the ones, the high end ones, I think there was 8 or 9 of those. So I think it was 138 radios total in the quote.
so
For portable radios, yes.
minus the ones that the admin get.
So at 30 admin radios, which were the R7, 100 of, say, the teacher radios of the XPR 3500s, and then 8 of the Ion radios, which is the scanner, camera, Android device with the two-way radio built in. That was 8 of those. And then you also have 15 mobile radios installed in building and grounds vehicles, so they can talk amongst themselves across all the different schools.
And I think the 100 included like cleaners, custodians, hall monitors, safety officers would get that higher end radio. But those lower end radios would be for mobile staff, IT, if we wanted them.
Yeah, right now, if you were to call, not every custodian has a radio. There's not even a radio in every building for each custodian to have it. And so when things come up and the kid vomits or something, we just don't have that ability to reach people with that. The other thing is at the classroom level, with some of our self-contained classrooms that need a radio, from some of our friends that are elopers, it's beneficial for that teacher to have a radio to contact the administrator immediately when a kid elopes. Right now that we don't have those.
That's where that 100 number came from. We sort of added all the staff up, and that's what we came up with.
Would it be fair to say possibly that if we like the idea, and I don't know anybody who could say that this isn't a good idea, right? It's obviously a good idea. But it would seem like you could really cut down that 100 to get the ball rolling. Is that fair to say? If every administrator and the guys in the maintenance trucks had them, is it really like we need those 100 radios for people?
There were times I had 10 to 20 teachers with one in my building, depending on the needs in the building. So it's hard to put a number to that. We looked at, when we sat down and looked at numbers, we looked at where crises come up. So there may be the high school may need 30. We have 8 buildings plus maintenance and facilities that we would want to have them.
Anybody else?
This is just a presentation.
Yes.
He just presented this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He was supposed to be at the last one, but we had so many presentations, we were trying to move.
And we can adjust those quantities on any of those quotes if you needed to, and I can also refresh and put the new R5, which replaces the XPR 3500 on there as well. But if there's any edits, anything that you get, you can always add to. So it usually is very common for school districts that whatever number they think, we usually get a call a few weeks or a month or two into the new school year saying, hey, can we order 10 or 20 more? That's inevitable, regardless. It just happens because you realize, hey, this is working great. We could really use some more here or there, but you can always add to it as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris.
No problem.
Thank
if
you.
that's that, I can leave at this point.
Run.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving along, board and staff reports. Mrs. Lori Converse is going to give us the policy committee meeting report.
Right, so we're going to start with, bring up the lights, you guys all reviewed. Anybody have any questions or suggestions or anything?
No, it's pretty straightforward. It's CDC recommendations and
You did make a few changes, right?
yeah.
Okay, cool. This thing is 7602 is one that BOCES had asked us to review. It is a policy that's required. at the district. The only thing on there that we were going to change,
Can you tell me what 7602 is?
it's providing a safe public school choice to students who have been victims of a violent criminal offense. Page 3 of 5, we do not have a number, so if a student, parent, person in a parental relation wishes to challenge the determination in that for an appeal, that we didn't have a number of days in there, so we put in 10 business days. So this policy will be put up for you guys to review as well, like we're not gonna, look at that. So it's for you as well. This hasn't been looked at since 2015. Basically what the policy is though for 8 through 5, so if a child was in danger, one just north and something bad had happened, then they can switch to another school. Just the policy.
Oh, that they can switch location. Okay.
Yeah.
Schools that we have multiple very helpful bands.
Okay.
And then, our facilities policy 1003. This has come to light recently because of Encompass and other programs that have reached out to us regarding our facilities. So on page 6, we are going to add, if you guys are all okay with it, you have seen this as well, on page 6, section B, under civic, cultural, religious, and service groups. We are going to change that to say reimbursement for expenses directly incurred by the school district, only when proceeds of activities sponsored by nonprofit organizations. And this classification are used exclusively for the benefit of school or charitable purposes.
So I have a question about that. So the board at sole discretion reserves the right to waive the charges scheduled in favor of reimbursement. Okay, so this is in line with education law 414.
That was
There's-
just,
okay.
that's all we had to do to change it. So we had that.
So this way we don't have, we can just say we're waiving the fees. We don't have to go through this whole. Okay,
So we
because there's a bunch of things. So that education law 414 is covered here.
because that's something that I had brought up to Dr. Spiegel,
Yes.
and that's all we needed to change it.
Perfect.
Whole law, so.
Very simple.
You guys all, you wanna review this one? Okay. Got that. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Like to see it. The license board first. License, I think we're all agree that license bad, we're do with that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, and then finally, one of the things that recently up is that we do not have a policy for board members when they want to remote for an extraordinary circumstance. So we are having BOCES write up a policy for that for everybody to review by our next meeting, hopefully. And then vote on it then.
So that would negate the 72-hour rule.
There's still on advance notice that you have to give, but I don't know if it's 72 hours and we haven't seen it yet. Districts were asked to create one in 2020 during COVID, but we do not have that policy, so we're gonna look at some draft ones.
We're gonna see what they say.
So we don't have anything right now.
No, that's what we need. Yeah, we should. That's.
So I have a question for you, Mrs. Converse. So policy, I brought this up at the finance meeting. So policy 4202 regarding the depository banks, I think that when we got our legal advice, we are not in compliance with General Municipal Law 10. They did recommend a change. And I think we need to put that on the docket
So
to review.
We were discussing it today and I held it off for the full board.
Okay, perfect.
Second.
So if we get this remote thing, I don't know if that's come here. The idea.
Emergency circumstances.
Emergency.
I'm gonna have an emergency.
Extraordinary.
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 Every day. I will
Nobody
see-
nobody wants you like remoting in from the hurricane.
Just fair enough, I'll take it.
Oh, and also we're gonna hold off on the cell phone policy until state ed gives us guidance.
I think that was a shocker for everyone.
Lori, that was wonderful.
That was actually really good, Lori. Good job.
Word worthy. All right, so moving along, board and staff reports, Dr. Larry Schmidt, Superintendent of Schools report.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank our Wiley contingency for all of the samplings. I feel stuffed. Thank you for taking us on that journey. And it's exciting to hear when kids have an idea, to actually see it come to fruition. And that takes a special type of leadership to support kids and allow them to grow. We challenge it all sorts of times. So the first thing I want to mention aside from that is the capital project. So a week from today is an opportunity for our community to support our schools. And as I've said in the past, when our schools thrive, our community thrives. And so these I brought from my own personal residence, but anyone that lives within our district boundaries should have received the capital project newsletter. And this week you should have received the reminder postcard. The vote will be taking place, as I said, on the 25th. That we have 2 voting districts. We have north of the Black River, south of the Black River. Our 2 polling locations are Watertown High School in the band room. And voting will take place from noon to 9 p.m. This year, we decided to do something a little bit different, so people will be able to flaunt their I voted sticker with a capital construction logo on it. And that will be closing at 9 p.m. And then shortly thereafter, I will advise the board and then put out a press release on those results. That will be taking place during our music in our schools. So if you have not marked your calendars to attend that event, it's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate Music in Our Schools Month with the fabulous talent that we have within the Watertown City School District. Keep in mind that this capital project is critical to our infrastructure and moving our districts forward. Our focus was keeping our buildings safe, warm, and dry. And the biggest thing that I would like to say with this capital project is that there is 0 tax impact to our community. And that is because we get 93 cents for every dollar that we spend, reimbursement and building aid. In addition to that, the district and the taxpayers and the boards over the last several years have put money in a savings account or capital reserves fund in order to fund $10 million to offset the cost of our taxpayers. So I want to thank everyone who's participated over the last several years voting and supporting that no tax impact. The next thing that I want to mention, this Thursday at 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. is our art show at Flower Memorial Library. It is a wonderful opportunity to see the talent of our fine artists. Our teachers do a great job working with our students, and it's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate their accomplishments and hard work. The next thing that I want to mention, I had the opportunity this weekend to watch it in person in Syracuse, but our very own high school music department will be presenting Mamma Mia. They will be showcasing that this Thursday at 7 p.m., Friday at 7 p.m., on Saturday 1 and 7. These students have started working in the early fall on this production under the direction of Rebecca Rose, and they've done an amazing job. And we know that our community is going to be proud of them, and we know that you'll come out to support them. The next thing that I wanted to mention is our community draft budget presentation. As you may have recalled in past board meetings, we're going to be resurfacing the stage of our high school, which is exciting. That will be taking place over spring break. And so we needed to move our community draft budget presentation to Case Middle School on April 28th at 5:30 p.m. We encourage anyone who's interested to please participate. The next thing, you may recall, a couple of board meetings ago, we had a board member ask us to consider purchasing our own buses. And so we found, with the support of our Assistant Superintendent of Operations and Finance, Franklin Essex Hamilton BOCES does a study. And they have a 3-administrator team, and over a period of 8 days on-site and off-site, they pull a report together to determine the feasibility of whether or not the Watertown City School District could sustain over years our own transportation department. The cost of that study is $8,321.06. 90%, our A ratio is pretty high here in Watertown. Our A ratio on that is 90%. So the cost to the district would be $832.10. And I would ask that if the board is interested in this, that we approve this so that we can book them moving forward for the transportation study. The next thing that I wanted to mention is our kindergarten registration. This year I've asked us to put banners up, so hopefully you'll see some yard signs throughout our community. I think it's, kindergarten is one of those grade levels that sometimes people don't start after Labor Day, and sometimes we find our own start date. We are hoping that everyone starts on the first day of school, and so in order to do that, our kindergarten registrations are critically important. So you'll see some yard signs throughout our community, and we're looking forward to that, and those begin in May. So we'll be looking forward to that. Today, Tina Lane and I had the opportunity to meet with our student advisory kids. What an inspirational group of students. Today, they had the opportunity, we invited guests in and adult guests, and they had the opportunity to pick their brain about things that they wanted to do. We've got a group of kids that want to create buddy benches at the elementary schools. We have some schools with buddy benches, but we have some reteaching that we need to do there. We have some labeling of things so that we're educating kids on what the use of those benches are for. We have a group of kids that think that there needs to be some counseling services or social worker services with our athletes. We have students that want to focus on food service. We had one of those students participate in our food service interviews last week, so we are excited about that. They just have a lot of amazing ideas, and we're excited to help shepherd them through that process and see something come to fruition by the end of the year. Lastly, I just want to mention today, Bree and I had the opportunity to meet with the city of Watertown and the county regarding our disaster relief. For any of you following us on this, we have been meeting bi-weekly since August with FEMA. And so we're working with the city on our mitigation efforts to make sure the mitigation efforts that we have in plan for the district align to what the county and the city is also planning. So we're looking at some more HGMP grant opportunities, and there's some environmental friendly grant opportunities. So we're looking at those. We're waiting for some advice. And our idea is if we were able to apply for these grants, we receive some of these grants to reduce the burden that would be on the taxpayers in our community. So we're looking forward to that. And that's been a consistent effort since August. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Items for consent agenda.
Resolved that consent agenda items A and B are hereby approved.
Motion, please. John, second. Tina, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Items for action.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
So, Barry, I asked for the minute because I'm curious. I don't know and I don't understand. So I printed them out. So these committee, what are these minutes? Like, what are we looking at here? What is this telling us as a board? Like, why do we?
Yeah, I know. I looked over at Matt, but I wanted to ask you first.
You're approving the minutes from the CSE or preschool meetings. So once the meeting takes place, we finalize either the preschool IEP or the school IEP. And then that goes on. We have to put the Board of Ed date on there when they would be approved.
So you're looking at like the services and related services, and that's really because there is a cost to those services that are added on an IP.
So when
It's
you,
really a formality.
okay, so these are all current. When you do your committee meeting, these are all current
Yes.
services that are being rendered through IEPs or special needs and accommodations.
Correct. From the previous board meeting up until this board meeting. Any meetings that took place or were finalized during that time be on that report.
So, okay. Thank you. I just didn't understand like what I was looking at. Thank you.
Okay, items for board action.
Whereas it would be in the joint interest of the Watertown City School District and the New York Cooperative member list as presented to the board to participate in cooperative bids for the purchase of various supplies, services, materials, and equipment as advertised by and awarded by the Watertown City School District acting as lead agency is provided by General Municipal Law, Section 119-0 and Whereas each board retains the legal authority to contract with the successful vendor and shall not be bound by purchase contracts or other agreements made by the other boards. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Watertown City School District hereby agrees to participate with the names of school districts in each cooperative bids.
Can I have a motion, please?
Lori.
Lori, second. John, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Whereas a resolution was passed by the Board of Education on January 7, 2025, approving the 2025 annual meeting, budget vote, and election calendar. And be it further resolved that this amended resolution reflects the revised calendar to reflect the change of the staff proposed budget presentation to be April 14 and the community presentation to be April 28. Additionally, the publications of the legal notice will be adjusted accordingly to start on Friday, April 20th, and is hereby approved.
Can I have a motion, please? Lori, second. Tina, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the following proposition be placed on the ballot for approval by the voters of the Watertown City School District on May 20th, 2025. Shall the Board of Education be authorized to establish a new 10-year capital reserve fund pursuant to section 3651 of the education law and fund such reserve fund in the amount not to exceed $10 million in inclusive of accrued interest and other investment earnings to be used for construction, reconstruction, renovations, improvements, and additions to all district facilities, including purchase of equipment, technology upgrades, classroom equipment, and or school infrastructure equipment, site development, athletic fields, playgrounds, storm and sanitary sewer driveways and parking lots with such reserve fund from year-end budget surplus funds known as unassigned fund balance as available for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2025, and each fiscal year thereafter for the term of the reserve fund. Transfers of excess monies from Board of Education designated reserves, amounts from budgetary appropriations from time to time, and New York State aid received and made available by the Board of Education from time to time as permitted by law. Be it further resolved that the school district clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish the notice of proposition in accordance with the applicable provisions of the education law.
Can I have a motion? John, second. Troy. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the following proposition be placed on the ballot for approval by the voters in Watertown City School District on May 20, 2025. Shall the Board of Education be authorized to establish a new 10-year capital reserve fund pursuant to section 3651 of the educational law and fund such reserve fund in the amount not to exceed $1 million in inclusive of accrued interest and other investment earnings to be used for the purchase of furniture, necessary furnishings, fixture and equipment, which such reserve fund to be funded from year-end budget surplus funds known as unassigned fund balance as available for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2025, and each fiscal year thereafter for the term of the reserve fund. Transfers of X monies from Board of Education designated reserves, amounts from budgetary appropriations from time to time in New York State aid received and made available by the Board of Education from time to time as all as permitted by law. Be it further resolved that the school district clerk is hereby authorized to and directed to publish the notice of proposition in accordance with the applicable provisions of the education law.
Motion, please. Lori, second. John. Gotcha. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the following proposition be placed on the ballot for approval by the voters of the Watertown City School District on May 20 and 25. Shall the Board of Education of the enlarged city school district of the Watertown City School District be authorized to undertake a project consisting of security system upgrades and additions, including but not limited to the purchase of open gate metal detection units and a handheld radio system in the amount not to exceed $500,000, which is estimated to be the total maximum cost thereof, and pay for such project by using $500,000 from the IT reserve fund. Be it further resolved that the school district clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish the notice of the proposition in accordance with the applicable provisions of the education law.
Motion, please. Tina, second. John. John, discussion.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Why do we need the security proposition?
So the voters need to, the board first, and then the voters have to approve the creation of the reserve, which you guys did last year, and then the
Right.
voters approved it. But now we need the permission to spend the money.
So why do we need to have a security proposition if we have the money coming? Why couldn't we vote to just take the money out of the IT reserve account? If we wanted to purchase something.
This is the IT reserve. Are you saying by take it out of the general fund instead of the IT reserve?
I think she's saying why can't the board just say spend the money?
You keep, because it has to be, it's voter authorized to create it and voter authorized to spend it. Similar with all the other ones. We can't spend it though. Similar to like the 10 million that's saved for the capital project, there will be a proposition that the voters have to approve it. You use it towards this capital project.
So it has nothing to do with creating a proposition so that this is aidable.
There are things that can be purchased that are aidable, and the security things, it is the state contract that we would be purchasing it from.
Right.
And we're
So-
getting aid on that, but we have to have the voters approved to spend that money from that account.
Okay, so my second question is if we approve the security proposition, because you put those two bids on there for the Open Gate and the Bearcom, is that automatically us saying that we agree that we should purchase these two items?
Bearcom is not listed as the second one, but we've already had more discussion on the first one on the Open Gate.
No, the digital links, it's on there. This proposal's on part of that security proposition.
It's the radios are on there, but.
Right.
Say Bearcom specifically.
It says right there, Bearcom.
Okay. Yes, you are correct.
Right, so that Bearcom proposition is for $325,536. And the Open Gate is $117,000, which makes sense that you want that IT reserve, that proposition to be at 500,000. But my question is if we vote to approve the security proposition, does that mean that we are also agreeing to purchase both the radios and the Open Gate?
You're authorizing the voters to vote on that, so yes.
Well, so yes.
Yes.
So those two so that's what that means?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I have a few other things to say about that. You know, the presentation is great. I just feel like $325,000 on radios, that there's a lot of things in the school district that need to be addressed. And I'm having a really hard time justifying $325,000 for convenience. Right now, we do everything that the radio is going to do. I understand that it facilitates everything. I understand that it makes everything a lot smoother in communication, but I can't recall an event in the last 2 years that any of us would be like, oh, we should have had that radio and things would have been better. I just have a really hard time. You know, I feel like these two bids are buried in this proposition. And so we're saying yes to three things. I don't think we should be spending that kind of money. I really don't. I don't know if, you know, other people feel like if you want to cut it, like face it will be proposed. Maybe we don't want to get 100 radios. I just don't see why we need every person in this district to walk around with a walkie-talkie. That's my personal opinion. I think others can say what they want. I feel that the Open Gate metal detector is something that we have talked about for a long time. I think that is a valid expense in my personal opinion. You're getting 6 of them for $117,000. thousand, which is a third of the radios. And we do have an issue with kids bringing in stuff. And, you know, we talked about putting them at Case, we talked about putting them at the high school and maybe some of the events, and they're portable. And I think they're a much more attractive and versatile, you know, added piece of equipment that we can have. So I have a problem saying yes to all three of these. And the other piece that I'd like to add is I think it's important. It's nice that you provide this information and that Jeff Wood is here to provide, but I'd like to hear from SSOs. I'd like to hear from the SROs. I'd like to hear from Pete. I'd like to hear from other people, whether they feel like these are things that they're really going to be using, and do we really need this? On top of the fact that we're spending $500,000 when there are many other things that we need to be spending our money on. So that's just my opinion. I think that we should probably go around the table and see what people think.
I have a question just procedurally on this. When would be the last possible point where you would have
I
to
was
have?
just thinking the same thing. When you have to have these, is it?
I have to publish these three propositions on that legal notice starting April. So at the April 1st meeting is when I will be bringing that legal notice with all of these on it.
Is it my understanding though that that the voters have to vote for it?
Correct. All we're doing is
Regardless.
voting to take it to the voters.
We already have the money, so what you're also saying is the money was already.
The money is already in the IT reserve
It's
account, so
already
you're just
allocated.
authorizing for the voters to say, yes, we want to spend this on it, or the voters say, no, we don't want to spend it on it.
How much was the original allocation of the million?
That
What I
money,
will
that
say
money
is-
is very specific in what it can be used for.
Yes, but I will say to get to Millie's point, as I did mention earlier, maybe I didn't elaborate enough, but we do have a safety and security committee in this district. And our SSOs serve on that, our SSOs serve on that. We have teachers on that, secretaries on that, principals on that, executive team members on that. So they chose that this was an area that we wanted to move forward. So that happened outside of the board meeting.
And I think that if we have to support something like this, we should hear what they want, what they have to say. Like I'd like to hear that. A lot of money.
No, I agree. And I've mentioned this at prior board meetings, so if somebody wanted me to invite an SSO SRO, they would have been here and they would have been glad to be here.
You know, I just feel like we haven't talked about it enough. You know, we've got sinks in the high school where kids are complaining that they can't drink the drinking water, the toilets aren't working, the sinks aren't working. I mean, there's just so many more tangible things that we're not supporting. And to me, this is a luxury. This is a convenient luxury. It's not a necessity. No one's gonna die if we don't upgrade our radios. And you have to think about the annual incurring fee. You got $2,800 that is gonna be part of the budget every year for maintenance. You heard the longevity on this is 10 years. You're gonna be giving it to custodians that can throw it around, lose it, whatever. So that's why you have the maintenance agreement, but you've got to get batteries every 3 to 4 years. I mean, this is not something, it's not like a one-time purchase and then we never have to think about it again. It's gonna be an reoccurring, you know, expense. And I think just in the condition that our district is in right now, in physicality, to spend $325,000 on a radio, to pay $30,000, 175 hours of installation. I mean, I think this is outrageous. And my other question is, did our attorneys say that this was an okay procurement? I mean, don't we have to put these things out to bid?
So it is a state contract. That's what I said earlier. So state contracts are the ones that we can't purchase from. The Bearcom is a state.
So Ferrara is okay with us. Okay with
We
just
are
going,
allowed
because
to
we don't,
purchase from any state vendor unless it's a state vendor, so. But to get to what you're saying, Millie, with the whole sinks and everything else, get what John said and to what Laura said, and I get what you're saying with the perception piece, public perception is vague. The IT funds would not be able to be used to fix the sinks or anything related to maintenance.
I also don't believe that just because you have the money, I mean, there's other things in IT that we can, there's a lot of things to upgrade. When we went on our tour, we saw the closets, like where all of the you know, the infrastructures for computers, they're terrible. I don't know if the IT money can be used for that. But yeah, we have money in the IT and I understand that you can't use IT funds to fix things. I get all that. All I'm saying is that I think this is an extraordinary amount of money for a convenient and luxurious thing in our district. Has other things that we should be addressing. And if you want to spend money from the IT reserve, there's many other things that we could do upgrades on for IT. It's not just this. So, you know, I have a problem that there's a proposition and we're saying yes to three things. It's like all buried in one. And we haven't heard from other people at all about about these radios. It's a lot.
Would you like to go?
I think it behooves this entire board to get information than just one source. It's a big
And
investment.
not just the board, but the community. I mean, we're asking them to approve this.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful for them to understand, is this a need or is this a want? That's what it comes down to, right? We're gonna have needs. We have plenty of needs. We've got $110 million in needs we're about to ask the voters to approve. So any information we can provide that will inform people about this being a need is gonna ultimately be beneficial.
Would everybody be okay if we invited that group to come speak on April 1st?
Yeah. I think
Because we still have some time.
Be helpful.
We can make a more informed decision then. It sounds like the metal detectors, everybody's pretty much in agreement on.
Go ahead, Lori.
So I do just have one personal comment. So the North Colony School that they spoke about, my sister-in-law actually works there. Why don't we, she thinks they're great and been helpful. So should we not get maybe some other schools and their feedback on it? So, I mean, I agree it's a lot of money, but I also was involved in a situation where radios would have been very helpful. And I'm not gonna bring up said situation, but it was here and that would have been very helpful. You all know what I'm talking about them. And that's just one. So I'm on the safety thing, I did the money thing, Millie, I 100% do, and we are, but I'm more like it's a safety thing, and I don't know, I'm not a what if. I'd rather have it here and then know that we saved somebody's life than not spend the money and realize somebody's dead. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. But I also think that everybody's opinions are important. But I'm just like, I don't know, it's just an iffy thing that makes me.
I'm hoping the extra information will convince us all that it's all the things we're saying. I think there's a good chance of that.
I can run up to the April 1st coordination, and that gives you enough time to add it to.
It would be back on that April 1st, yes, because then I'd have to have it on that legal notice, but.
It's the last
I have to get it.
Would it be a good option too, not just to have the SROs, but maybe have a teacher from Wiley? You probably should have a
I thought we
group from
invited the
everybody.
committee, right?
Yeah.
We have a safety committee.
But is there a good representation from everywhere?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have extra meetings tomorrow, so we have a lot of people that serve on that. And all different classes.
I mean, even like for Dell, I mean, I don't know, I would even like to hear what they would want to say. I would really like to hear what he would have to say because I personally feel being athletic events all the time, that probably would be super helpful. Especially if you're like, there's somebody doing something way down here and they shouldn't be, and I need help down here. Because I've seen stuff like that happen quite a bit as a parent, where there's somebody might be fighting down by the bathroom, somebody's down here and you can't yell to get help. So that's, I don't know.
So our current technology doesn't serve that.
So we used lockdown as an example.
Oh.
So we used lockdown Randy as an example. So right now I can go to the office and do a lockdown, but I can't do it from where I'm standing. In an emergency situation, you're not going to predict whether they're coming through this door, that door. If you have the device on you, you can lock down the building immediately and not waste minutes trying to get to a phone system. Like we have all of the things that everyone mentioned. We do not have the convenience of being able to do an emergency. Code Blue is a good example.
What is a code blue?
Code Blue addresses any medical emergency in the building. There's CPR certified first aid, all of those things. If that happened, I would want everyone on my Code Blue team to have a radio. And they knew exactly where to report and when to report. I mean, every second counts. So I have a hard time putting a price tag to safety. But I understand what you're saying, and we do have things mechanically that we need to work on, and hopefully with the capital project we can get there. But I can definitely invite these people to the first.
I would just like to say, there is a sticker shock there. I understand that, but I have sat on the safety committee, I've served on the safety committee. And every single law enforcement officer I have talked to, and every single trainer, because I've done way more school shooter training than I care to ever remember, has said every single second matters in that sort of situation. And they can never get enough seconds back for a response from law enforcement. If this saves 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds for law enforcement, it's worth every dime.
And maybe after we have people come talk, we can still do this, but on a smaller scale, maybe not, I don't know, but based on what he said and all these numbers, it's a lot of
And if you
money.
look at 100 radios with 9 facilities, you're looking at 10, just over 10 per building. I mean, it's not a lot when you look at the large scale. And then you look at the high school that has almost 1,200 kids, or, we have 900 employees in the district, so 100 is not a dent with everyone getting one.
Is it fair to say that you wouldn't put 10 in each building, though you would scale it to the building that?
I think it depends on the need, because you don't know where you're gonna have things. I always, at the beginning of every year as a principal, looked at what are my needs in the building? What are teachers that have certain situations in their classrooms that I want to know about immediately in case we have no loper? Or we have, the kids, we've had the kids with seizures. Those ones we want the team to report in. So it was either medical or other reasons. But they were assigned, and I can't say that. I definitely had 10 in a very small.
I think we need presentation. I think everybody can agree on that. Is that right?
More information is always better.
Yeah.
I'll invite them, and I'll be with them tomorrow.
Bree, I'm sorry, I asked this again, but just for clarification. Is this aidable?
Yes.
Are we gonna get, it's like 93 cents to the dollar, or is it a different ratio?
It's a different schedule that we fill out at the end of the year, kind of like with the open gate metal detectors.
Would you be able to tell us how much it would actually cost us if we decided to go with this? If being that I think that if something's aidable, it makes it a little bit more palatable. Right?
Yeah.
So if you can give us what it's like when you just said it's gonna cost us $800, like why wouldn't we do something for $800? So I think that would be beneficial.
If that's the end of the discussion, I need a motion to table then.
Yep. Motion to table.
Melanie, a second. Randy, all those in favor? Motion's tabled.
Resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the intermunicipal agreement between the City of Watertown, New York, and the Watertown City School District for the period July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2026. The use of each other's facilities for the intermunicipal agreement.
Motion, please. Kelly, second.
Right.
Lori. Discussion.
Out of curiosity. In this intermunicipal agreement, the reciprocity is in everything except for the fairgrounds. Why? Did they say why?
They could not release, they couldn't take on the burden of the cost for the fairgrounds. So we tried, we've been working on this since last April, so
Yeah.
a year. So that was the only thing that we looked at that we had to kind of get through. And so what I threw in for the fairgrounds is, in the past, the district has only used the fairgrounds for varsity. So I included JV, and I also included locker room usage, so.
And in the spirit of that, did you tell them that they have to pay for something if they lose power?
No, their math came out that we owed them more than they would have owed us. So it didn't come out as an even dollar for the usage. And I think with the fairgrounds and the amount of striping, and if it's raining, and the amount of restriping, the staffing that they have to pay to do that, the staffing that they have to pay to do the locker room, since we're gonna use that.
So fairgrounds were using the baseball diamond, which is the big ticket item, I assume.
That is the big
The
ticket item.
softball diamonds, and we're using
The
these
lacrosse field, right?
lacrosse and soccer pitch.
Yeah, the biggest thing was the baseball diamond.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that's a line item on your budget, Bree?
It would be,
It will.
pending board approval tonight.
Oh, everything's pending approval.
Yeah.
Where was I? All those in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the Board of Education of the City School District of the City of Watertown, New York, establish a rate of $372.56 for the school year 425 for health services provided for non-resident pupils attending non-public schools located within the City of Watertown. The following figures illustrate the determination of the above rate and are hereby approved.
Motion please. Lauren. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the proposed 25-26 school year calendar is presented to the board is hereby approved.
Motion please.
Lloyd.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, any discussion?
Yes. So I'm curious, I know that we have to have 180 days of school. But I've gotten several, I think a couple of us on the board have gotten several complaints about how many half days we have had, or how many days, you know, for superintendents say, like, for example, this Friday, there's no school. Do you know exactly how many attendance the district is our
So
school?
less our superintendent conferences would be 176.
Right, but when you have a half a day, that's not a full day of education, so.
Correct.
Right, that's what-
It's a full day of education.
No, I know, but I want to know how many actual full days of academic education the kids are receiving. So minus all the half days and minus, you know, your super, whatever. I'm just curious to see.
Not to interrupt you, but
there's actually less half days on 25.
We actually got rid of
That's definitely better.
We got rid of some half days.
You're looping them together better.
I don't have that date.
That's fine.
Makes it less.
So it is better.
Yeah.
A lot
so we had-
better.
had one in March this year that we're taking away for next year. We're actually putting it, so kids will get 2 weeks off for Christmas. Similar to the other districts, because right now our high school kids are at a disadvantage because this year they were here, but BOCES was closed. Because it goes with the majority of the districts that are closed in the region. So this calendar is actually much better. We've had several calendar committee meetings to get to this point. BOCES provides an A calendar and a B calendar. We solicit input from the teachers bargaining unit. And then we sit down as a committee to try to come up with, meet the legal requirements of the number of days. Superintendent conference days, I moved one of them to December to give parents and kids that full 2 weeks. Teachers will be here for superintendent conference day on that Monday. That Tuesday, we had the 187th day. Their contract is 186. Put that other day there. So there was a lot of.
So you
time
did
that went into
acknowledge
this.
that there were too many.
We went through this calendar.
I think
We
that,
did a much better job last year, but this year we did even better. So I'm proud of what we're presenting today. My hope is that when we present it and adopt it, we don't have to bring it back 10 times afterwards to make change. So that was the goal this year.
There's only 4 half.
okay, well, that's good.
And just as an FYI, like those half days, there's professional development, there's also parent teacher conferences built into it.
2 of those days are.
On that, and like this is just my own information. The parent teacher conference is in December. The thought behind 2 days, 2 half days rather than 1 day. I think I know the answer, but
They can't get through the quantity of parent teacher conferences. That is a big parent teacher conference because you're looking, the December one is nearing the end of the semester. And any of those, that was another thing that we put into consideration. We wanted to make sure that parents and teachers had an opportunity to sit down, to have a conversation before that semester ends and the kid loses the full credit or half a credit.
is that you're saying because it tends to be more in the evening or in the second half of the day, because it's still a day,
Yes,
right? Is that what you're saying?
absolutely. Yeah, we look, that's why we made the change for like March one, we realized when we analyzed the building principles, they said if the second one in March, you're more likely to get the elementary parents, but not the secondary parents. And then the other thing I will disclose, since we are being recorded, that if at any point, if a parent would like to meet with their child's teacher, they have the right to reach out to that teacher. So these are just the built-in parent-teacher conferences.
I think the concerns that were brought up is that, and I think this is just common knowledge, is that when there's a half day, they really aren't getting instruction on that day. They usually make it like a fun day, or, you know, you're not really getting all your lessons in. And so I think that that's really the concern. But if you did a great job in just cutting it to 4 half days next year. I think that's great, because literally over the last few months, parents have felt like there's a half day at least once a week for whatever
And
reason.
that's snow days.
It's snow day, right? So then that even aggravates things because we had a terrible winter.
This was a test of strength. Last winter was much better. This winter, but we're not out of days. We have some contingency days left, so.
Well, it looks like in
Not that I wanna
February,
take
right, our new year falls in February.
Yes,
right?
so that
that's-
helps.
That helps too. So February, they're in school the whole month except, well, snow days pending. Great. Okay. Yeah, 'cause I knew somebody was gonna bring that up, so. See,
Nice job,
you're
Lori.
prepared. Good job, Lori.
I think the parents are gonna be happy with the new calendar. I don't think we gained any friends with the students, but so it sounds good. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the Madison Oneida BOCES services request form in contract to participate in specific service for the 25 and year. Or are here.
Motion please. A second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Dr. Larry Schlegel, the Board of Education hereby approves the following resignations, leave of absence, appointment term, non-probationary instructional, probationary non-instructional, permanent, provisional, tutors after school, Cyclone Academy, substitutes instructional, substitutes non-instructional.
Motion please. John, second point. Discussion.
Yes. So Owen Maynard is going to be our new athletic trainer. That's awesome. I actually looked him up. I have a question though. He has a master's in athletic training, so why does he have to take the civil service exam? Is that a formality?
It is civil service law.
Okay.
That's the athletic trainer. He was required to do it too.
Okay,
Just so you
so
want.
even if you have that level of degree, they still make you, wow, that's
Yes.
crazy.
Anything not a
Is it
teaching
city?
position.
City, Watertown City,
Most of it's civil
they're great to work with,
Okay.
but yeah.
Right, that's point, thank you. And my other thing is someone, I actually think this is a great idea, but someone reached out to me. And I don't know if this is something you could consider or even look into. If the athletic trainer could have a dual responsibility and also be, do you know what I'm gonna say?
I think I might.
Okay, because you're like getting excited. A dual responsibility and also being the coordinator for the weight room. Some kids that use the weight room and the kids that are using it, there is really no adult there. And a lot of these kids can get hurt, like if they're not, especially like ninth graders, or if they don't really know how to use the weight. So someone brought it to my attention, and that's kind of in the same line of, abilities. So it's something, I don't know that you need a title, but maybe that could be discussed with him if that's something.
He has an expertise in that, actually.
Well,
That's what, yeah.
yeah,
So-
the guy, he's pretty impressive. I looked him up. He's pretty impressive. He's from Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and he's from Evans Mills. He does volunteer work, right? Am I right?
Wait, I'm not about sure about the volunteer, but what
Yeah.
diversified.
Yeah, he volunteers at the Evans Mills ambulance. Looks like he's really fit. So I think.
Sounds like me.
Almost. He's just a tad taller than you.
Fit.
He's a tad taller than you. So if we can talk about that, being the
Yes,
coordinator
ma'am.
for the weight room, I think that would be a really good addition. It's just an idea to throw out there. I think it'd be nice for the kids.
It's a good suggestion. I know Eric Kemper did it for years. So he was great. Oh, yeah.
I just want to say, Tina, thank you for your tireless efforts. I mean, I know it's been a long road to try to find another trainer.
Yeah, that's hard.
We know you've been at it.
We got lucky.
And we had a couple of students on the interview committee too. They asked great questions. It was really a nice experience.
No, I was really happy when I saw that. I actually did not think it was gonna happen. So I'm very happy
Three
to,
quarters of the year. We've got
thank God.
from Friday for the weather.
Rob, I have had people ask me about us as a district. to do next year, because we already budgeted, is actually having a strength and conditioning.
You could be that person.
But no, like a full-time strength and conditioning. Somebody that
Do you
does.
want radios and it's full strength?
No, next year. Next year. But to your point that you just brought up, some kids don't have a clue how to.
Yeah, no, it's true. You're right. I agree with you.
Could morph into a club, it could be a whole thing.
I mean, I know all the kids have to be trained on how to use the equipment, but there's a difference between that and actually having a plan for how you're going to try to,
Correct,
you know, what your goals are and how you're gonna achieve them.
correct.
Great. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that upon the recommendation of Dr. Larry Schmiegel, Superintendent of Schools, the paid administrative leave of a non-instructional employee effective March 10th, 2025 is hereby approved.
Please,
John.
second.
No. Oh, sorry.
Any discussion here? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the student trips as presented to the board are hereby approved.
Motion please.
Lori.
Lori, second.
Billy.
Billy, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the approval of the next extracurricular advisor, John Wolfers, advisor for the newly created chess club at Watertown High School is hereby approved.
Motion please.
John,
John and Billy, any discussion?
how did you not start a chess club when you were here?
There's actually, I believe he's a principal in Indian River now, who did, when I was here, his name's Nick Lee. And he did the. I'm glad that it's fine.
It's regaining popularity, like,
And voice great.
yeah, it's good.
It's really cool. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the approval of the extracurricular advisor, Lisa Pierce, advisor, and Sunny Ortiz as co-advisor for the newly created Sprout Society Club at Watertown High School is hereby approved.
Motion please. Tina, did you say before motion? Tina and Kelly. All right, so discussion?
I love it. What a great opportunity. I read through all their plans and what they've done, and so it's actually been up and running, right? Just hasn't been recognized formally. What a great opportunity for our kids.
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the disposal, recycle, or donation of damaged, outdated, and unused instructional items from Knickerbocker Elementary is hereby approved.
Motion please. Lori, second. John, discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the disposal for recycle of damaged musical instruments from H.T. Wiley Intermediate School is hereby approved.
Motion please.
Right.
Lori, second. Kelly, discussion.
I already heard you.
I want, yeah, whatever these instruments are, let's start there.
We were not able to sell them on Auctions International because of the potential of molding.
Damaged in the flood.
And not
I
that.
don't know. What is that?
This time I need a motion for an agenda change to add the approval to waive a fee for Compass recreation event.
Second.
John,
Okay.
Whereas the Board of Education reserves the right to waive charges for facility use in favor of reimbursement for expenses incurred by the school district when proceeds from activities sponsored by nonprofit organizations are used exclusively for the profit of the school or the charitable purpose. Now, there's a result that the Board of Education waives the fee for the Encompass Recreation event scheduled for June 29th, 2025, and approves reimbursement for expenses directly incurred by the school district.
Motion please.
Billy.
Millie, second.
John.
Lori, gotcha.
I'll let her have this.
Discussion.
Can I just, can I just ask, how do we determine that other charge? Is that?
So I'll give an example for them. So if they want to use the track, is there a cost to the track? Is there not a cost to the track? They would like to use the pool, or there's a cost to the pool. We're hiring the lifeguard. So what that last piece says that the district can't erase the cost to the taxpayers to run it. She's working on getting volunteers. Matt's been working for Matt. She's able to get volunteers and we don't have to pay. Lori brought up a good example of policy today. And this is in alignment with where the policy is going at the first reading, next board meeting. But if there's an AV cost, the district can't waive the cost of the AV cost because otherwise it would be a burden on the taxpayers. So they could reduce other costs to that minimum limit. So that's what that says.
Are we required to have custodial, being that is a Sunday, I believe?
Sunday, if we're opening up schools on a Sunday, yes.
That would be a cost. But they would.
Yeah, but it gives the board the latitude and the policy to look at nonprofits differently and to look at the actual cost versus the proposed cost.
We gotta vote.
We didn't vote on it, yeah.
We didn't vote on it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Now, Michelle. Okay, anybody here tonight wishing to address the board on non-agenda related public comment?
This little cozy corner though.
No.
So recently, there's been a lot of talk in the news about a specific cut from the federal government through the USDA for the local food for schools program. I was just trying to figure out, I saw a piece, I think back to it, that mentioned funds for different schools, and it said something along the lines of $17,000 for Watertown City School District. Is that anything that has been confirmed, that that's a cut that's going to hit our district?
Speak to that. So it's actually $37,000. And for next year, we were expected to actually double that number from the federal government to the USDA. And right now, we don't have 100% confirmation that we will not be receiving those. But when you look at the articles that were put out last week, it does suggest that New York State that is being cut. So for us, it would be around $74,000 that we would lose with those USDA, which for us does sponsor the food to table.
And so that would also impact a lot of our local farming, whatever local farming communities we are using to collaborate with, correct?
But we believe, and I don't want to speak for other districts, but us being where we are financially, our district will not see an impact. Obviously, those monies would reduce from somewhere else. But some of the smaller districts that are looking at federal cuts may see the loss of programs or staffing because they don't have the reserve to fund those. So it is going to be felt around our region, and in some districts, it's going to be larger than others.
Which is very unfortunate. I also wanted to say a couple more things, really briefly. Was really excited to see that formation of the Sprout Club. And I know that it likely doesn't involve anybody here, but one thing that comes to mind that I think could be a potential collaboration with that group is that usually every May, Community Action Planning Council has a event that's open to the public called Grow with Community Action. They try to have like the master gardeners from Cornell come in, they give out seed packets. They have vegetables that have started growing, so people can leave with like a pot of like peppers or something they could just take home and grow on their porch. I think it might be a neat opportunity for that group to potentially participate or something like that. So I just wanted to mention it here. And then I just, as a community member and as a parent, I wanted to speak to the safety piece about those radios. First off, I asked Chad, he confirmed, we don't use Tap App. Did we use Tap App and then we stopped? Or we never used it?
It's the issue you become with like a Tap App system is you can't require for people to put it on their individual devices.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So then you have some people with it, some people not. The other thing I would, a consideration when we're looking at anything that we're asking for people to put on their phones is 2D compliance and FOIL possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, we really as a district want to be using equipment that we can manage and monitor.
Well, and that was gonna be, from my experience, it can be problematic, so I thought that the radio sounded like a better option than the tap app. I just didn't realize that we weren't using that. The safety piece is huge. I know that this is a pretty niche thing, but as soon as I hear somebody say eloper, my heart goes into my chest. I'm a parent of a former eloper, and that looks different for any child that does elope, but I mean, that part is huge to me. I've been in this school for code blues. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Velasquez, you are a first responder. And so I used to hear about code blues because my son had Mr. Velasquez. So just that urgency piece of trying to get to those situations is immediately where my heart goes, as to the opportunity for that safety piece is huge. So I just wanted to speak to that briefly. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comments. No one else? Kevin Todd, nothing, okay. Then moving along, items for discussion, information, budget overview and discussion of propositions to the ballot. Reader.
Okay, as I mentioned before, this budget is just a moving piece. It is literally changing daily. At the last board, I gave you guys an updated copy. At the last board meeting, I mentioned that the insurance was expected to increase, the commercial insurance, property insurance was expected to increase 10%. That is not the case for Watertown School District. I had a discussion with Adam Leclerc, who's our rep with Haler Fire and Crew last week. All districts are increasing by a minimum of 17% due to the issues with the wildfires out in California and the hurricanes that had hit over the fall. We're actually expecting a 40% increase in our commercial insurance. On top of those national issues, we also had the flooding at the high school and the gym wall over at North last year. So all those conditions combined, it's an increase of over $200,000 in the budget from what I had presented to you at the last board meeting.
And the claims was over what, 170%?
Yes, yes.
So that increase went from 10% to 40%. And I did send an email out to the neighboring superintendents, and what Bruce said was confirmed as far as the 16-17%. Many of them saw significant increases in their deductibles to about $75,000 or plus.
It is increasing our deductible, and I'm sorry I didn't bring that with me tonight. I did provide that to Dr. Schmiegel when the superintendents were gathering some information. I know the supers are trying to get Haler Franklin to appear at one of their meetings.
It's a joint email that we sent.
Yes, it was. And Aswell was even talking about trying to get them at their meeting next week. Last Friday, the admin team met and we had our round 2 of our budget presentations with all the buildings and department heads, except for one. Jeff didn't want his germs around us. So we went through and reviewed the staffing requests and supplies and equipment requests, kept some and removed some of the requests. At this point in time, I have passed it on to Mr. Burdick to review, just to make sure all the special ed aspects are accurate and to ensure that we're not doubling up on any staffing that might be covered under a grant as well.
Can I add something there?
You sure can.
With the reason why we're asking Matt to look at it is this year, what you're going to see when we move forward as far as the budget presentation is that last year Case saw significant need. This year, we need to add to our continuum of special education services. So a significant percentage to our budget is looking at, we have a great partnership with Jeff Lewis BOCES. There are some classrooms that are full that they can't accommodate additional kids. We don't have the continuum of services that we would like. And so we're looking at adding some 611 classrooms, 811 classrooms, 1213 classrooms. We're looking at TAs because we have many of our classrooms where there are aides in those spaces that do not have the authority to be left alone with kids. It has to be a TA or a teacher. So there's going to be some shifts there so we can make sure that people are getting those breaks that they need throughout the day. But that's going to finalize those numbers, and then we'll have a more concrete number to you, but that's where we're gonna see the most significant increase as far as staff across special education.
Yes. So the packet that you had, that's with all the departments and buildings merged, instead of giving a thick packet that you got last time, I just gave you the total. Please know this is, when you look at it, this is not the final number. This is just simply some updated information for you. As I go through, you'll see that we're still waiting on some further information. I'm still trying to tweak some numbers, and close up some gaps. When it comes to BOCES, we do have some final numbers from BOCES, but not all. You did approve the MORIC agreement tonight, and that'll get forwarded on to BOCES tomorrow, and that's the last piece before we get the final numbers from Jeff Liu. Another aspect of the budget, we were talking about the vans and trucks at the last board meeting, and it looks like we might, because we do have the funds available in the equipment codes for this year. We did get a quote for 4 vans from some local dealers as opposed to New York bus sales, and they came in very competitive. And Dr. Schmidl and I review that and hopefully move forward on replacing some vehicles this year. And
If we're able to do that this year, then it would be removed from next year.
yes,
So that'll impact these numbers also.
yes, correct.
What's the approximate? Over what you
Oh,
thought.
for the quotes on the vehicles,
Yeah.
$100,000. It was 25,000 per van.
What did you think it would be?
It was 375 for 4 vans. Now it's down to 275.
Okay.
Yeah, it was almost 100,000 even. Shout out to Jenna E for getting together on that. Helps to have connections a little bit. And again, reminding you that the budget numbers are not ready. We won't have those numbers again from the governor until April 1st for the remaining revenue figures. But actually, Dr. Schmidt, I think you brought this up. We did get some communication from ASBO. The one house budgets were submitted to the governor last week. There were some great potential positives for the districts. The capital outlay, it was proposed again to move from $100,000 to $250,000. As we all know, you can't really do anything with $100,000 these days.
Really 90,000, 10,000.
Right, correct. The retiree cap waiver, one of the houses has asked to have that extended for 2 more years. And potentially increasing UBK aid. So that would be a huge benefit for our district. And a final note, I know you guys are all waiting for a big fancy presentation. So Dr. Schmiegel and I are planning on having a presentation to you on April 1st with whatever information we have at that point in time. And April 14th is the anticipated date for the board adoption of the budget. And then, of course, that is the first of several presentations. We have 2 that are going to be presented to the staff on April 14th and the community on the 28th, as Dr. Schmiegel had already mentioned. And we have 2 Rotary presentations already scheduled for May 7th and May 8th. And you've already discussed the propositions earlier tonight, so I'll just. No. Any questions?
I have questions. Randy, Lori, do you guys have questions first? No, I just had questions on, so the booklet that you gave, the other one that you gave us, first one you gave us last week, not the.
Yeah,
colored,
the thick
white,
one from last week, yeah.
So that one that I was to do a lot of it, I only got like 4 or 5. That is where you get the numbers that go over here, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
because that packet, we've had a lot of the requests from the different buildings.
So I do have some questions of just those pages, if you could just. Okay, so I saw like, one of the pages that says homeschool coordinator for $138,000. You don't pay homeschool, so can you like explain?
When you look at the salary numbers.
Benefits,
Yes.
our ERP or ERS contributions, our teacher retirement system contribute, that's the out of the door cost.
Okay, so with everything, including their retirement.
Yes.
So for their longevity here.
Yes.
Okay.
And we, just as Bree kind of said, but highlighted that, you guys, she just wanted you guys to have something, so I didn't vet those yet. What she gave you today were vetted, less the IT department.
So then, but like, for example, so like, I was looking through like athletics, so we've got, marching band, $100,000 for, feel like that was like.
That actually has to go up because the actual uniforms themselves are $100,000. When you look at the actual instruments that we're gonna need, it's gonna be more than that.
So. Did you find someone to do that?
What we did was, it was mentioned by the board earlier in the year. We had a conversation about adding marching bands. So when our current instrumental teacher at the high school decided to retire, we added that to the advertisement. So, we do have candidates that have applied. We have 5 outside candidates and 2 inside candidates that have applied to be the marching director and the high school instrumental teacher.
And then, so I also saw like something about flag football, unified sports,
Yes.
brand flag football.
Yes, that was a request, if you remember, last year. And so we added it this year. Last year they presented that and they presented bowling. Last year we added bowling. This year we were gonna add girls flag football.
Is there other districts that?
Yes. I can find out in your, I know we had it in the keys. It is a popular thing for girls football.
Stuck out. And then what's, I'm really sorry, so many questions, there's so many things I saw there. There was, video boards, 90,000, what's the video boards?
See, so you're asking for things that we didn't even approve. So if you look at the current one that we gave you guys today, what we asked every department, that's why giving things early is sometimes not helpful because then you're looking at things that aren't real. So what we did is ask every department to dream big. If you could have anything that you wanted for your building, your department, put it in there. But that wasn't what was made it to the final round.
Okay, no, that's good, no, that's, I mean, but that's good to know, so when you do have that, it's like, it's not just, it's like the Christmas list.
All of like the holiday boards, those things we did add because we think that those are important to have to celebrate.
Well, those, I'm talking board, we had discussed. For you to hear.
That's why we emphasized at last board meeting, this is just, you know, this is the wish list, but these are not the final numbers.
Yeah, there was like a $40,000.
I did have a question, I don't know, that I did not see, is for like uniforms. I noticed last year that some of our teams did get our new colors, new logo. Not all of our teams have those. Why is that not on?
So that's included in athletics, materials and supplies. It's not a separate line item for uniform specifically. It's built into the supply.
Okay. Perfect.
And as far as I know, Mike has created a rotating schedule when it comes to uniforms. Actually, I think he gave me
So it'll be a couple years before all of those get replaced with a new logo.
some of them that I've had, we've had them for a little bit, so that's what I'm asking. But that's good to know, so then when people do look at the budget, then they know that.
Yeah, they're not gonna
stuff
see
is-
all the itty bitty details in there. They just, and of course, when it goes to the public, it's usually grouped by department or it's grouped by, oh, here's all the instructional salaries and so forth. They don't see all the little things that go into it.
Okay, so I'll look at the new one and I don't have any questions on it, because I think other things that I were looking. Christmas list, so.
There were a lot of Christmas ones back.
But they, Rob, they did what we
That
asked
does
them to
answer,
do.
I think that does answer, well, that does answer. So.
They're great presentations.
So I do have a few questions and I did look at all of this because I don't want you to think that I asked for something that I'm not even gonna look at. So I spent many hours looking at this and I'm not a finance person, so I definitely do not mean to offend you when I ask some of these questions, okay? So what I did notice, and I don't understand, and I want you to help me understand, is that when we're looking at these, you are giving us the 23-24 actual.
Yes.
And budgeted.
Yes.
And then 24-25 actual and budgeted.
Correct.
And then you're presenting a proposed 25.
Yeah, I look at the previous 2 years, just especially with a district that I'm not 100% familiar with the budgets, to see if the budget is aligning with the actual expenses over the last couple of years.
So here is where I'm confused, okay? And specifically, I'll just use a real example, so of 810 Board of Education. So the budgeted amount exceeded the actual expense. So you're looking at 27,000 versus 21.
Right.
And then in 24-25, the budget, you budgeted 41,000 and the actual expense was 37. But then we go to the 25 and you're adding $20,000 to the budget. Let me just finish my thought so then you can explain to me, because I know you have an answer, but I just have to get my thought out, okay?
No, we're fine.
So in 25-26,
You have 61,941, so that was an increase of 20,000 plus. So my question is, and I understand the first draft you gave us was only up to March 1st. Now you gave us a new one up to March 1st. I understand that some of these numbers are going to change, although for this particular one, nothing's changed. So I want to understand if, and this is a pattern. So like I've looked at all the departments. So if we are over budgeting or we're budgeting and we're spending less, then why are we adding more for the coming year?
So for specifically that account code, there was conferences in New Orleans and New York City, and that was a big ticket item earlier in the year that was not expensed in previous years. So I'm planning for that in the next year's budget.
So when we went to New York City, that wasn't budgeted?
But you don't know from year to year until you guys say that you're
Yeah.
going. So
No,
unless
I
you
know,
tell us
but-
now if you're going next year, which is in New York City.
Right, but you're saying it wasn't budgeted, but.
That dollar amount specifically was not saying that I'm not sure what Sally had in there or Josh or whatever. But when it came down to it, when you look at looking at the detail of that account code, that was not planned specifically. So I'm just making sure that those funds are specifically planned for those conferences for next year.
So that's just that, but like I said, there is definitely a pattern of that going on.
Oh, yeah.
There's many budgeted items that the actual was significantly less, and then we're adding more money to the 25-26 season. So we'll see what it ends up being, but I did notice that. The other thing that I have a lot of notes here, but after what you just said, it's not even worth going into. But I do want to point something out though, that is a little bit concerning to me. And I just want you to know that as a board member, I'm going to be looking at this specifically. So in 23 to 24, our budget was, if we budgeted $83 million and we only spent 57 million.
Go down 2 lines, Millie.
Oh, I didn't.
That's all right. Well, look at the one I handed you today. So it's got the.
Okay. So. Yeah, so in 2023, you budgeted 83.
I know where she's going.
Right? And we actually spent 61 million. And then in 24-25, we budgeted 87 million. And thus far, we spent 41 million. I know a lot of that stuff's still gonna come through. So we're barking up. So right now in your budget, you've got 96 million.
But I'm working daily to cut that down. I know there's fluff in there, Millie.
Yeah.
I can tell you, so last year, you've got ARPA monies.
Right.
Josh and Sally were very good about making sure staff were still protected into the general fund budget. So that's where all that is. And the number right now, you're only into March. You're not even hitting June, where you're gonna have the big teacher salaries, where a lot of that's gonna come out.
And I understand that, but we had an approved budget in 23-24 of 92 million. And the year prior to that, we had an approved budget of 82 million. So our surplus every year is a lot of money. So where I'm coming from, my perspective is obviously I'm extremely conservative. I don't like to spend the money. We don't have to. But here's are we overinflating our budget? And that's my one concern. And I don't expect you to say yes to that. I'm sure that there's justification, but I want you to understand where I'm coming. And once you give us the real numbers, like I don't want you to be surprised about what I'm going to be asking. We have consistently we have spent a lot less than we've approved. We go out to the voters and we say, we want you to approve a $92 million budget. Meanwhile, we've spent 20 million less. So now we're coming up to this year. And again, I've said this repeatedly, and I know you're not in this community, but our budget for the city is $57 million. And we have 335 full-time employees and 94 part-time. I know that we're triple that in terms of employees. But when we're barking up $100 million budget and double the city and we're going to get hit with a 20, there is no question that the people from the city of Watertown are going to get hit with a 20% tax increase next year. No question about it. There's no way that we're going to get out of that. So I'm really concerned about presenting an overinflated budget. And according to these numbers, that's what we've been doing over the last few years.
I think, Millie, just to kind of reiterate what you already know, that she reiterated, just so everyone hears the same thing, that last year was the last year, receiving the ARPA money. So those positions, when those monies came in, they were not supposed to sustain positions.
Oh, I know.
So
Yeah.
like what you were saying is actually true in the sense that, so you're carrying the cost because you don't want to eliminate the position when the funds are gone.
Right.
And so you're almost like double billing for that same position, which is overinflating the fund balance. So that is true. But I will say, just to reiterate, is that last year going into this upcoming school year, so this year being the last year, we're losing 5.8%, as we were fully funded this year as that last year. So you are going to see a strict decline in that in the fund balance.
We're losing 5.8%.
Yeah, because we were fully funded for our aid when they caught the districts up that were underpaid over the years. So we've received over 8%. That's going to be cut back significantly. We're only getting 3.17% in our state aid. So when you look at that piece, that decrease of that 5.8%, then you look at what she said tonight, an increase of 40% in our insurance costs. Then you look at a 10% increase in our utility costs. Then you look at a 6% increase in our health insurance employer coverages, plus any of the negotiations that are going into next year's budget. That balance is gonna, like any other savings account, we're gonna be spending that money. But what you said is actually, and it happened because it was booked in there. The similar thing with Lynn and writing grants. In those grants, there's a sustainability piece. And so you need to make sure that once those grants are gone, even though they do a great job trying to get a grant to line up behind it, the district has to be able to cover that cost after the grant ends. So there's a reason for that, but I get what you're saying, and it essentially was with those ARPA funds.
Right. And I do hear you, Millie. I completely understand that their 20% potential city tax increase is foremost on my mind when I'm building this. And Dr. Spiegel and I have talked several times, like I'm not comfortable going to the public with what we're looking at right now. So my goal over the next week is I'm looking at doing a budget to actual comparison for the last 3 years and saying, is there, cutting out some budget lines where I can find it.
One thing too that we learned, Bree and I both sit on the Health Insurance Consortium for the community for our region. And one of the things that we're constantly having conversation about is we can go out and say this year we're only raising it 3%. The next year we're coming out at 6% or 8%. And that's exactly what happened this year with the Health Insurance Consortium going up 6%. Last year, 90% of the committee wanted to be conservative and not spend the money. So we came in at a low rate, and now this year we have to almost double that to make up for what they didn't get last year. Right? We do have to be careful with that, I believe, with the overall.
I like a smooth increase. I
think all of us like.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to express what I've seen here so that when we do finalize the budget, I will protest. As much as, and not against you, because you're working really hard. It has nothing to do with that's why you're here. You're here to tell us what's the best way to approach this. But, historically, and you haven't been here, you've been here for the first, historically, we've sold in a school budget to the community, and we never even spent the money. And maybe, on the other side of that is now we have a capital improvement project for 110 million that we don't have to go to the taxpayers and say, oh, guess what? You've got to pay this. And last year, to be fair, we had a 0% tax levy, and we all knew that. So I am cognizant of all that, but I also want to make sure that the community, is not taxed unnecessarily.
I understand.
And I know that's on your forefront, but I feel as my duty, I need to stay there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but some of those leftover monies is what went into our reserve accounts.
It's capped out. Yeah, we were just about 8 million for the capital reserves for this project. That's set off at 10 million.
Yeah, that's right.
It created the IT reserve and it created the maintenance reserve.
And also included in there too is a big number for the Massey project.
Yeah.
So, that's going to push it up, but it'll be offset by fund balance revenue, of course.
But that one, just to reiterate,
Yeah.
as we've said in the past.
Yeah, we'll have some-
probably, is that one is not aidable because there are not students in that building. So that has to be paid through a fund balance management.
But I appreciate you explaining everything. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Policy review first reading.
Nice. You're on.
7106. Good, okay. And we're gonna move past that then. Thank you, Lori. Making sure you were awake over there. Have some upcoming days to share with everybody. Thursday, the 20th is the elementary art show, 5:30 to 6:30 at the Memorial Library. Also on the 20th, HT Wiley STEAM Fair, 6:30 to 8, right here at Wiley. March 20th through the 22nd is the Watertown High School musical Mamma Mia, 7 p.m. And there's a 1 p.m. matinee on Saturday. Friday, the 21st, Superintendent Conference Day, no school. March 25th, Tuesday, Music in Our Schools concert, 7 p.m. And there's also a capital project vote on that day from noon to 9. North Elementary and Watertown High School band room. Tuesday, April 1st, the FAF committee meeting at 5 p.m. right here. And following that is our regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Really?
So, thank you, Chad, Olivia, for your great presentation for the students. I think that's everyone's favorite part. Everyone says that all the time, so it's nice to see that this little boy here, amazing, unbelievable. And I saw his mom, the way she was responding to him. And that's probably why he's so outgoing, because she's not, I think that some parents would be like, okay, be quiet. And she didn't do that. And I thought that was really nice. So, great kid. Question for, we all know Wiley has a phenomenal ensemble group. Does that ensemble continue at Case?
Yes,
They do. So but not,
and we budgeted for the second music teacher for this current school year.
okay. Not
Now,
with
it's music every year.
Oh, great. It's a different teacher.
Different.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure because those kids are amazing. I promise.
Performing again, by the way, so we're inviting them similar to what we did last year. We're doing a reception in here in the atrium on a board meeting day in June. Recognize all of our retirees and they'll be back there to sing again.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I promised Mary Hughes, when we went to Knickerbocker and we had our thing there, all the little kids had put balloons up and put comments, and a lot of the comments that I noticed were about food. Like, why do we have soggy tacos and why do we have soggy PB&Js? And so Mary was not happy with my comments, and so she went to Larry and said, I think the board deserves a tour of the cafeteria, which, you know, anytime we make a comment and someone takes the initiative to say, you know, they're saying this and it's not true, let's educate them. It was an incredible, right, Jason? It was an incredible tour. I have the utmost respect for these cafeteria people. They have a very organized way of doing the food. I couldn't believe how much work goes into giving our children our food. We didn't understand how every meal, the only way every meal can be reimbursed is if every kid takes a protein, every kid takes a fruit, everyone. I mean, it is incredible that the cafeteria workers will tell a kid, you didn't take a fruit, you need to come back and take a fruit. Takes a lot of energy. And what was her assistant's name?
Brenda.
Oh my God, amazing. I can't say enough. I was so happy that she did that. We talked about, is Kristen still here? We talked about farm to table because that's one of the things that I'm very invested in as well. Here's the problem with farm to table. I mean, she said, we do right now, we have a $75,000 budget that they spend on farm to table. They have fresh cucumbers and carrots and apples and all these great things. Our workers slice them and serve them. The problem that they're having is that the kids aren't eating it. And she gets so sad. Everyone there gets so sad because they have a tray where they don't really throw the food away. They kind of put it down if kids don't eat it. And the kids aren't eating it. We all know kids never want to eat healthy stuff. They always want to eat junk. But we need to provide that nutritional education probably at the earlier, maybe starting in kindergarten and teaching the children that these are the real foods to eat, because right now they are wasting a lot of money. Now the athletes come by and take the fruits or take whatever, that's there. And then the rest has to be thrown away. And it's so sad. So we do have that farm to table initiative. I didn't know about it. And we were sampled the food. The food was I was really impressed. So I apologized to Mary. She took offense to my comment and she said, I don't even know why the kids are complaining about soggy tacos. We don't even put meat on the tacos. You get the shells and then you get the meat and you have to mix it. And I said, you know what? Then you should go there and ask them. Ask the kids, why do they feel like they're getting soggy stuff? But she's incredible. And I promised her that I would give her a shout out and give her kudos, because that department is the ultimate finesse. So that's really.
The other pleasant.
Oh, Cully, I'm sorry, yes.
The other pleasant surprise was the amount of food the child could get. I mean, it's a tray full, like it's hardly would fit on a tray.
Yeah.
The amount that they're able to if they want to. I was very impressed with that and realized that.
The three of us.
About the possibility of doing like visual images so kids could see what they could get.
We have a great cafeteria. I will never say another bad word about it. We have an unbelievable cafeteria, and they're putting a lot of thought into farm to table. And, it's an initiative that has to be brought up to our legislators as well. But it is really incredible and I loved it. And I'm really glad that she contacted you and said, let's get the board in here.
She, today, Tina and I had the students in here for the advisory council, and she actually met with a student who during my interview, we're talking about over 2 years ago, and you may remember, it was during the public session, who asked the question, what are you gonna do about our food?
Yes.
So that student, because life comes full circle, that student is on the student advisory and sat at a table with her today, and halfway or 3/4 through the conversation, Mary, in Mary fashion, the lady that spoke up, and so she remembered her all the way back from my interview talking about the food. And so they had such an inspiring and insightful conversation today that the girl is going to help create a survey to survey kids. And she walked away. So it was an amazing conversation. But when Mary clicked on that, this is the same girl that spoke up in the middle of the auditorium, it was a great experience today.
The other thing too is they use white meat for chicken. So they pay an extra. She was telling us it's like 58 cents for like processed, and you get the dark and white mix. Yep. But we pay extra. We pay like $1.25 to get white premium meat. And they make the chicken nuggets right there. It was really, I can't say anything else. It's just really impressive.
And we had a student sit on, organized interviews last week for our director of food service because Mary's retiring in May. And a student served on that interview committee and asked great questions. So.
Thank you, Jason. That's all I got.
Thank you. John Kane III. I've never noticed the third before.
My father, as I've mentioned before, was a proud graduate of Watertown High. I can't say anything hasn't been said. Mamma Mia's coming out, go and see it. Go and see music in our schools. If you haven't seen that program, it's a phenomenal program. We have so many talented kids in so many different areas. And then spring sports started yesterday. I know that for a fact because I'm softball coach. So good luck to all of our spring teams as they start their new seasons.
Sir. Tina Fluro.
I have a couple, thanks. Thank you both for having us here and having your kids here and for giving them that chance to do that newspaper thing. I knew that Blake was gonna go places back in first grade with his little suit jacket on. Cutest thing. Oh my gosh, he's so sweet. So thank you for, letting them be themselves and invest and investigate different things. I I had to put in a plug for Cyclone Academy today. I happened to be at the high school and some student after school walked into a teacher's classroom and greeted them. And then the teacher said, "So how's Cyclone Academy going?" And he said, "It is going great." He goes, "I can finally get my sleep," because I guess he has some type of a medical issue that he needs more sleep than a regular child would. But anyway, so he was so excited about Cyclone Academy. So I had to give you a little plug on that because kids are really enjoying that. So when I went, I got to see the students that do the coffee club. And I didn't realize that the money that they make from selling their coffees, they get to go and do something. So they went to the mall and they all got to go in and do that little paint thing there. They all got to
Paint
get-
pottery.
Yeah, paint and pottery. They're learning how to ride the city bus. They're just, they just are doing all these neat things with this money that they're learning that you have to earn this. And then this is, how you spend it and how much you lose or whatever. So I was pretty impressed with that little coffee club. They did a lot more than I thought they did, I guess. I didn't realize all that. And I was thinking about the radios. And working special ed, as Kristen had mentioned, we have a lot of elopers. And the minute that they go, it would be so nice to be able to get on the radio and say, elopement in Jones's room or whatever, and have everybody know at that time, if there's a seizure, if there's a fight, if there's a fall, whatever, just so everybody knows that at that exact moment, so people can watch for this child or whatever to come flying past the classroom. That would be so beneficial because usually you have to call and then they have to hopefully be at their desk. So if the principal's not there or somebody's not at their desk, it just takes a lot of time away from being able to react right away and keep an eye out for the little ones that are so unhappy to be here. So that was it. That's all I got.
Thanks so much. Board members.
I just wanted to say thank you to Chad and Olivia for your presentation. It was lovely. The newspaper club was awesome. I want to say good luck to Mamma Mia cast. I'm sorry I won't be here this weekend. I've been missing it. Mamma Mia is my favorite. Go vote for the capital project, please.
Excursion.
To copy everyone else, thank you, Mr. Fairchild and the entire Wiley staff. I have my son goes here, so I think the one thing that Wiley is lacking is time. So much opportunity, there's so much that they can do and so many different programs. There's just not enough time in the day. We tried microgreens at home. They worked wonderfully until they didn't. Certainly had to water them. And then spring sports, yes, spring sports have started. That's very exciting. And not to jinx it, but the weather has started as well. And it's lining up perfectly. So let's hope that continues. Okay.
Really?
Not much to add except in regards to Wiley, as you mentioned, Mr. Fairchild, this is the first time our students all come together as a group. And there's no question that sets the tone for middle school and high school and all those other things we're looking to do for our students. So thank you for the magic that you create here and setting that tone for the success of our students.
Great. You're both doing wonderfully. You've heard that. Keep it up. I know that you will. In terms of the coffee club, I'd like to remind everybody on the board, if you haven't looked at your email, we're gonna have a pizza party with them Thursday at 11. I believe it is.
Where?
I think high school in their room, maybe. I'll firm that up.
Okay.
Thursday at 11. And then we have been challenged, if you didn't look at your email, we've been challenged to a bowling match with the bowling club. So hopefully we can, that would be a next week thing, but hopefully we can make that happen. Well, I'm not gonna do everything out there. That's we'll figure it out, Tom. We'll get there. I have some fun. That's all I've got. So at this time, we are in need of an executive session to just. Huh?
Sorry.
Discuss the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation. Matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Lauren gave me the first and the second.
John.
John, all those in favor? See you next time.